To go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The war in Ukraine stretches into its third month with no end in sight.
Good morning. It's 6 o'clock on Sunday, April the 24th. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
We are live, of course, across the whole of the UK. We're on your TV, on your radio and online.
So coming up this morning, no Orthodox Easter truce in Ukraine as the war enters its 60th day. Russian forces regroup in the east. We're asking, can Ukraine hold them back? We'll bring you the very latest.
Voters in France will today decide their country's fate. Will they give centrist Emmanuel Macron 5 more years or replace him with their first far-right president, Marine Le Pen? We're live in Paris all morning.
Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries accuses commentators of mocking her dyslexia after she muddled her words in a social media video. Should we be kinder? Should we understand more about people with learning disorders?
Loads we want to hear from you about this morning. All the main news, of course, plus lots of other fun topics. Anything you want to talk about, we would love to have your thoughts. gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet us at gbnews.
So, hopes for a truce in Ukraine to celebrate the Orthodox Easter. It's actually Easter Sunday for them today. Well, all of those hopes have faded as talks between Moscow and Kiev have now stalled.
Well, today marks 2 months since Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered his troops to invade his neighbouring country.
At a press conference, the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, said he's not afraid to meet Putin if it leads to a peace deal.
Well, President Zelensky also said the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, will be heading to Kiev today. Now, if that trip happens, it's going to be the first time that a US official has been to Ukraine since the war began.
We're joined now by Christine Eliashewski, who's an editor and translator at Euromaidan Press, joining us now. Very good morning to you. And I gather that it is Easter Sunday in the Ukrainian Orthodox Church.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Of course, we all wish for Easter Sunday it was better news. But, I mean, what traditionally happens in Ukraine today? How do you normally celebrate Easter Sunday?
Well, normally, Ukrainians go to church on Easter Sunday, and all the churches are open. They carry their... They prepare a very simple breakfast at home. This breakfast is made up of blessed foods. These foods were blessed yesterday or early this morning and consist of eggs, hams, different sorts of hams, sausages, greenery, cheese, butter, very simple stuff, and Easter bread. Easter bread is called Pascha. So after the church service, families usually get together and just partake of this blessed Easter breakfast, or brunch, if you wish, and usually spend the day together. But this year it will be a little more, well, I guess, a more solemn, not as happy as the other years.
Oh, it is going to be. It's going to be a different event this year, isn't it? Look, what do you make of President Zelensky saying he would be prepared to meet Vladimir Putin? It seems, well, not quite an olive branch, but certainly he's prepared, it would seem, to do what it takes to come to some sort of peace.
Well, frankly speaking, maybe Zelensky is trying to be diplomatic. That's what he should be doing. But I don't believe in any olive branches with Putin. Putin is out to destroy Ukraine. And if that's not obvious from the start, then people should start waking up and seeing what's happening here on the ground. There have been peace talks before, I think 3 or 4. It's come to nothing. Putin does not respect his promises, and Putin does not want to meet with Zelensky. And Putin does not want peace. Putin wants to conquer Ukraine and eliminate the Ukrainian nation. That's what he stated. That's what he's been saying for years and years and years. Publicly, officially, in writing, everywhere.
On this Easter Sunday, is there anything your church leaders should be saying and doing?
Well, church leaders are, well, they're trying to instill hope and prayer in people, because what can people, ordinary people like you and me, what can we do? We can pray and we can hope for victory and peace. Victory must come before peace. There can be no peace in Ukraine here without victory. And even the church leaders are saying this, because otherwise Ukraine will not, and Ukrainians will not survive. Church leaders have been praying. There have been special liturgies all over the countries. All the churches are open. People can go into church whenever they wish. The priests are very, they're all available for people. The chaplains are working hard with Ukrainian servicemen on the front lines. These Easter breads and Easter eggs have been sent to the front lines so that our servicemen can enjoy at least or just have a whiff of the blessed Easter food. So Ukrainians and the church have been taking part in these Easter celebrations to make it seem normal, although everybody knows it's not normal, unfortunately.
You talk, Christine, of hope in all of this. Hope must be very difficult. I know you are a very determined nation and a very determined people. But with the news coming out of Odessa that a block of flats has been hit, more civilians killed, it must be very difficult at times to keep that hope alive.
It is, and at Easter we should show hope and goodness and goodwill. But it's, as you said, it's very difficult. Right now I'm full of anger. I will try to put this away when I go and see my cousins here and we partake of the Easter breakfast. Yes, it's anger. Anger and a sort of rage. A rage because we would like to do more. We need more. We could do more. I know that our military is very, very motivated, but they need more. They need more heavy weapons. And I'm sure they could help us, help Ukraine win. We could all win if we had more heavy weapons, which the West could supply in mass quantities. I'm sorry to be talking about this, but it's so absolutely necessary now. Heavy weapons such as tanks, artillery, fighter jets. Well, that's a dream, a pipe dream, I guess. Long-range systems. I'm not a military expert, although I've written about this, so I've learned a lot. And of course, anti-aircraft defense systems, because death is coming from the sky. We look at the sky. Yes,
we can hear your rage, we can hear your anger, and
yes.
and also as how poignant it is to on a day when you would much prefer to just be with friends and family and going to church, talking of military weapons and things. I think we all understand where you're coming from. Christine, thank you so much for joining us, and if it is possible, please have a happy Easter Sunday, won't you? Thank you.
Oh, you can
hear it in her
voice. Yeah. I mean, hugely frustrating. Well, as we bring you up to date with the headlines, actually, this ties in with exactly what Christine was saying, because the Ukrainian president will hope to secure weapons in talks with the United States today. It's as Russia resumes attacks on a steel plant in the city of Mariupol. Ukrainian nationalists, as of battalion footage, appears to show up to 1,000 women and children sheltering underground in bunkers. Talking in Kiev, Volodymyr Zelensky says supplies are vital for Ukraine to take back Russian-occupied territory.
Meanwhile, in Kharkiv, 3 people have been killed and 7 wounded by Russian shelling. Firefighters have been battling blazes after the heavy bombardment, and Russia says it shot down a Ukrainian fighter jet and destroyed 3 helicopters in the area.
The Home Secretary has criticised the BBC for its coverage of the government's new immigration deal with Rwanda. Talking to The Telegraph, Priti Patel accused journalists at the BBC of exhibiting an undercurrent of xenophobia while reporting on the plans. The Home Office insists it will save lives by deterring migrants crossing the channel in small boats.
Now, in less than 1 hour, polling stations will open in France, allowing voters to decide who's going to be the country's next president.
Now, this election will determine if the current president, Emmanuel Macron, keeps his job or if his far-right opponent, Marine Le Pen, takes over.
Our reporter, Paul Hawkins, has filed this report from Paris.
48.7 million French people are going to exercise their democratic right to vote, starting at 8 a.m. local time. The polls remaining open for 12 hours here in Paris, 11 hours in other parts of France. They're open later here in France because of the sheer volume of people. Places like this are where they'll be exercising their democratic right. That's a school. Many schools will turn into polling stations for the day. They'll be coming and looking at posters like this. You don't have to be an expert in French to work out this says, "Where is my bureau to vote?" And then there are addresses on there to help French people decide who they're going to vote for, if indeed they are going to vote. Voter turnout is expected to be low because of the choices on the ballot, which include Marine Le Pen from the National Rally. She is going for her 3rd pitch at becoming president. This is the closest chance she'll get to being president in this competition. In this vote, I should say. Of course, she's up against Emmanuel Macron, the current incumbent. He's trying to become France's first president to be re-elected for 20 years. So it's a big day for him. However, he is expected to win. The polls at the moment show that he is 10 points ahead of Marine Le Pen, so it's possible Marine Le Pen can win if voter turnout is low. And the reason that a lot of people are feeling very apathetic, politically apathetic about this election is because he has alienated a lot of left-wing support with his economic policies, which are perceived as right-wing and pro-business. So we spoke to 2 people yesterday in the 16th district of Paris, and one said to us that she's planning to spoil her ballot because she doesn't like the choice of Macron, who's too capitalist, or Marine Le Pen, who she views as too extremist. Another woman said that she's going to vote for Macron reluctantly because he is the least worst of the candidates. And indeed, Macron himself has said, look, even if you don't like me, please don't vote for Marine Le Pen because, in his view, she is an extremist, she is a racist. He points to policies such as the fact that she wants to ban Muslim women from wearing the hijab in public, and she wants to give social housing and welfare and jobs to French nationals. So she would say that she's putting France first. Indeed, her message was that the choice is either between Macron or France. So that's the choice for the voters if they choose to go. Voter turnout will be, or is expected to be, quite low. But if Marine Le Pen were to win, and it's possible, not probable, but possible, that would be a seismic result for France and indeed Europe.
Thanks very much. And we'll be revisiting Paul throughout the programme because, as we said, the polls open in about an hour's time. It'll be very interesting to see whether they're busy and bustling or whether, as predicted, it's going to be a pretty low turnout for France anyway.
I can't get over that. 72%. They think, but it's a prediction, obviously. But
which they see as low, we would see as high.
Yeah, we'd be celebrating if we got 72% of people.
Maybe we're a bit more apathetic about politics than the French.
Maybe. Loads of you already watching this morning. Good to hear from you. Dean says, morning from Stourbridge Town, watching you before going to bed after a long night shift. Oh. And did I compliment?
He did.
Did I compliment on your outfit? I did, actually.
He did. First thing. It's the colour, I think.
It's a lovely colour.
You like a bright colour, don't you?
I do like a bright colour. Yes, a whole lot.
Valerie is watching from Stalybridge. Is that how you say it? It wouldn't be Stalybridge, would it?
I'd say Staley.
Oh, would you?
Yeah.
You say Staley and I say Staley, OK. Oh, she actually said it.
No.
I'm watching from Stalybridge. Let's see if you...
Stalybridge.
Stalybridge.
That's according to...
Stalybridge.
That's according to Google.
Well, Valerie knew we'd have trouble with that because she said, let's see if you say it correctly.
Den, morning Den, says, read the cost of living. Unfortunately, as a pensioner, the holiday spending has been curtailed because of the hike in utility costs and priorities must take precedence. Quite right. Long daily walks along the River Cam will have to replace my annual trip to Portugal until things improve. Actually, the River Cam, if the weather's nice...
If the weather's nice, there's nowhere more beautiful in the world than that. But, yeah, and you won't have to sort of wait for hours at an airport or something either, will you?
No, this is very true.
You're just walking along by the Cam. Jackie says, I'm glad you mentioned dyslexia. And this is going to come up a bit later on in the programme. We'll be talking about this. But Nadine Doris is dyslexic. I didn't know that.
No, I didn't.
And she was writing about something on social media and spelt it wrong, or spelt it wrongly. Which way
she said it wrong.
She said it. Oh, she said it wrong.
It was a video clip. Instead of saying she downloaded something, she said she downstreamed it.
That sounds right to me.
And she's been mocked repeatedly.
She's been mocked, and she said, her sort of dyslexia is one that affects how she speaks, what she says, and whether she can summon up the right word, I suppose. But she was just astonished by the fact that people were prepared to mock somebody with a known complication, concern. What is it? It's a condition, I suppose, dyslexia, isn't it? But Jackie says, I'm so glad because you mentioned it because my husband is dyslexic. He does get mocked for the way he spells in public if he has to fill in forms. People still look at him like he's thick and he's not. I've told him to embrace it, spell the word how you want to, and that they're the ones with the problem. We just read his words anyway, and as they sound, it's easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
You've got to embrace it if you've got it, haven't you? You can't fight something like dyslexia.
I'm all for good spelling and good grammar. I think it's important. But if you have a condition that sort of prevents that, well, can I say, there's two fingers up to the rest of the world.
Yes.
That's what I think, really. We don't care what anybody else thinks. If that's just the way you are, that's just the way... My other half makes words up like you wouldn't believe. Oh,
I like people who make words up.
Oh, it's like if cables or whatever get all caught up, they get intertwangled.
Yes, that's a good one, you see. That's really good.
And I love it. I just think, it's just quite nice, really. Things get intertwangled.
My son made up a word. That's right. A propaganderist.
A propaganderist?
Is somebody who spreads propaganda.
Oh, yeah, that sort of work.
Well, I thought, is that a word or isn't it? Looked it up. It's not, but I think it should be. It's a good one.
It's a good one.
If you're a propaganderist.
Yeah, quite
If you've made up a word, we'd love to know it.
Yes, we would.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose all households make up words, don't you? Like the remote control is the doofer, or the what's it, or whatever.
Yes.
We all have our own funny little words for things.
Except my friend Sybil, who I speak to when I drive home, and I've got like a 90-minute drive home, and Sybil's often on the blower having a chit-chat, and she always says, and I was doing this, and you know the what's it? And then I was doing that, and I dropped the what's it, and everything's the what's it. Yeah. So I have no idea what she's done.
And then you say, well, you know, the thingy.
The thingy.
That's right, yeah.
So I don't know.
We all have words like that,
She's probably watching now. Sorry, Sybil, I don't know what the what's it
That's brought up an interesting one. You talk to people when you're driving home.
Yes.
Yeah. So you use that You use that time because you can to make your calls.
Yeah.
Is that cheating? Is that a proper phone call? Is that a proper conversation?
Oh,
See?
I never thought of it like
No,
that.
I know, because my son, who's just recently started driving, does that all the time. I get a lot of phone calls, which is brilliant, but it's always when he's driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think
is that a proper phone call or
No,
not?
because it's just free time,
Or is that just
isn't it?
using up your time?
You've got free time, and so I think it's good. It's a handy way of
keeping in touch.
When I finish work here, I call my folks. I call my other half.
In the car?
Call my other half, call the folks, then call Sybil.
Do you think that's a real phone call? It's not the same as getting home and picking up the phone then and talking.
And actually deliberately taking
setting,
the time.
yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Or are we just, the people you call, are we just making your drive easier for you?
No, because I like a catch-up. I like a good chin wag.
Oh, yes, you do.
Cheeky. Anyway, let us know what you think. GBViews at gbnews.uk. Stay with us. We've got plenty more to come, including the UK's first clothing brand created by young ex-offenders. We'll tell you where the pop-up shop is after the weather.
Looking ahead to today's weather then, and the UK is looking largely dry for many, with the warmest weather across western parts of the country. Taking a look at the details of where you live.
And the southwest, for many, it's going to be dry and sunny this afternoon. The west of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, a bit cloudy with the risk of rain.
Further east, and we may see the odd shower, but for many it'll be dry, feeling cooler along the coast thanks to the breeze.
Across into Wales then, we'll see plenty of sunshine throughout the day. The warmest weather will be in the west, with highs reaching the high teens.
The Midlands, however, could see a few showers develop during Sunday, especially towards the east. The showers, though, will be mainly light and fleeting, allowing the sunshine to quickly return.
Let's head north, and for many in northern England, it's going to be dry and sunny. However, low cloud may linger across some eastern coasts. Where it does so, it is going to be a little bit chilly.
Low cloud may also affect parts of northeastern Scotland today, but elsewhere should see a dry day with sunny spells. In the sunshine, temperatures may climb to about 16 if you're lucky.
The sunshine is also going to be plentiful across Northern Ireland. Very little cloud around. The northeasterly wind, however, will keep some coastal areas a little bit on the cool side.
So there you are, a few showers continuing this afternoon before easing this evening, leaving many parts dry with clear spells. And that is your weather for today.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
6:23, morning to you. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on your TV, your radio and online.
Now, a shop in London has launched the UK's first clothing range run by ex-offenders.
It's called Blank Canvas. It's a pop-up store at Westfield Shopping Centre in Stratford and showcases Inside Out, a clothing brand designed and created by young people who've spent time in prison.
Our London reporter Alice Porter went to have a look.
Coming out of prison can be a daunting prospect, but Blank Canvas's co-founder hopes the scheme will give valuable skills to the men involved.
And they've made the clothes, they've designed the fabrics, they've decided what colours and sizes to use and what quantities. They've also done employment training, they've done fashion training, as well as business training. And they've also, done a lot. They've done selling in the retail store. They've organised their own photo shoot. They've also helped with the website and social media.
Bigger, smaller, yeah.
Only 17% of ex-offenders get a job a year after leaving prison, which makes projects like these even more important than ever. Many ex-offenders experience discrimination when applying for jobs, something which Shaquille knows all too well.
Yeah, 100% there's not enough support for people coming out of prison. So, if I didn't know people, in my community, it would be so much more difficult. They've made it a lot easier, but not everybody has that. So, for a lot of people, it's going to be very hard coming out of prison to get on the straight and narrow.
But what do shoppers think of a clothing range run by those who've been in prison?
I purchased 2 T-shirts, and I like it. It's positive.
I love fashion, so to see that the project is the premise of helping young ex-offenders find passion and to be seen through creativity is always a good thing.
The pop-up store runs until Thursday, but for those involved, there are lots more opportunities ahead.
The plan for the future is just to go off and make a success of my own clothing and apply all the skills and knowledge that I've learnt during this process.
Alice Porter, GB News.
You see, I love that. I think it's really positive. I don't think you can ever
positive, exactly.
Write anyone off because of a big mistake that they've made in their life. It doesn't mean they can't turn things around. And these are young people as well, especially. They've got a whole life ahead of them, and so they've got to be able to do something positive, contribute to society in a positive way.
And it is so difficult for somebody coming out of prison to ever get a job, and yet the job is the one thing they probably need the most to actually anchor them into the real world again. And no, that sounds brilliant. Good.
Really
People
good.
do deserve a second chance. Always.
Yeah, good on them. Look, plenty of your views coming through. Anne got in touch yesterday, said she was watching in Cumbridge, remember?
Oh, that's right. And we said, where in Cumbridge?
Wherever. So she's been back in touch. Morning, Anne. And she's from Bootle. Small village on the west coast near Muncaster Castle and Ravenglass on the way to Whitehaven. Have you been, Stevie? It's my neck of the woods, Anne. And Ravenglass...
Why do I know Bootle? I know the name. I've never been, but I know the name so well, Bootle.
Bootle, yeah.
Just because it's a memorable name, I suppose.
It is, yeah. It's lovely. And you'd love Ravenglass, because there is the Ravenglass to Eskdale Railway. It's one of those three-quarter gauge little trains.
I love those. I love those. I love
been on
railways.
That so many times over the past 40
They're
years.
brilliant, aren't they? Why do we love railways so much? But we do, don't we?
Especially these little tiny ones.
Yeah,
you just sit there and take your picnic.
Yeah, brilliant. Kath says, love your show. Great combination, thanks. Watching you from Fuengirola in the Costa del Sol.
Ooh, sounds fancy, doesn't it? And Rod in Paris, morning, Rod. Oh, a cheeky one, Rod. So please give my wife, Pat, a shout-out to get my breakfast ready. Pat, get his breakfast on.
That happened yesterday. We had somebody who said that.
It's a Sunday morning treat, apparently. I have one treat already, watching you two. Oh, you smarmy devil. But yes, Pat, get the eggs boiling, get the soldiers cut.
Oh, that sounds nice.
It does sound nice, actually. You can't beat a bit of breakfast.
I haven't had breakfast in bed for years and years. It is a treat when somebody else brings it to you.
Yeah, even if it's just a slice of toast.
Oh, absolutely. It's lovely.
Oh.
You have one of those bed trays with the legs. Oh, that would be fun.
That would be fun. I said maybe, Rod, you should get out of bed and make it for Pat.
Yes, just a thought.
Yeah. There you go. Anyway, keep your thoughts coming through. gbviews@gbnews.uk. We've got plenty more to come for you, including a look at the papers with David Hamilton and Dawn Neeson.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
.30 morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on your TV, on your radio and online.
So let's bring you up to date with today's news. The Ukrainian president will hope to secure weapons of defence in talks with US today. That's as Russia resumes attacks on a steel plant in the city of Mariupol. Ukrainian nationalist Azov battalion footage appears to show up to 1,000 women and children sheltering in underground bunkers. Speaking in Kiev, Volodymyr Zelensky says supplies are vital for Ukraine to take back Russian-occupied territory.
The Home Secretary has criticised the BBC for its coverage of the government's new immigration deal with Rwanda. Talking in The Telegraph, Priti Patel accused journalists at the BBC of exhibiting an undercurrent of xenophobia while reporting on the plans. The Home Office insists it will save lives by deterring migrants crossing the channel in small boats.
Japan's Coast Guard says 7 of the 26 people on board a tour boat that went missing off the coast of Hokkaido, I think, have been found, but authorities are unable to confirm if they're alive. 4 people who were found yesterday were unconscious and taken to hospital.
The Health Secretary is urging men over 60 to take free tests which screen for bowel cancer. The NHS says just 1 in 20 would go to the doctor if they had symptoms, with men less likely to take up preventative screening than women.
The Scottish Conservatives say prisoners should not be allowed to vote in the local government elections to, quote, respect the experiences of victims. The Scottish Prison Service says close to 580 convicts are eligible to vote on the 5th of May as they're serving sentences of 12 months or less.
Scottish Labour is calling for a £100 water rebate as part of its local election manifesto. The party says it will help families hit by crippling water charges, which is set to rise by 4.2%.
And Tyson Fury has sensationally beaten Dillian Whyte to retain his WBC heavyweight world title. In front of a crowd of 94,000, 6'9", Fury, gosh, I didn't know he was that tall, caught his opponent on the chin, with the ref calling time on the 6th round.
Newspapers now, should we? We'll start with the Independent on Sunday, shows an image of a destroyed tower block in Ukraine. The paper's leading with the invasion of Ukraine, calling the event destruction and defiance.
The Mirror says P&O Ferries has sunk to a new low. The paper reports that the company is trying to cut the wages of the cheap staff who replaced the sacked crews.
The Sunday People says Rishi Sunak's in hot water again. He's got plans for a new swimming pool in his North Yorkshire mansion, which could cost £13,000 a year to heat.
The Daily Mail, get back to office or face the sack. That's what the Mail on Sunday says. The paper says civil servants who refuse to return to Whitehall risk losing their jobs.
I'd love to know what you think about that one. Let's go through the papers now. Joining us this morning, broadcaster, legendary broadcaster, I should say. I need to squeeze that in there.
And legend.
And legend. David Hamilton, the one and only. And former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. Good morning, both. David, let's have a look at the Sunday Express, should we? And the Prime Minister is the leader Britain needs, so he says.
That's what Boris is saying this morning on the front page of the Express. I am the leader that Britain needs. A senior Tory MP has said that he will be out after May the 5th. And the question is Partygate going to finish him, or has the war saved him? And this is his big fight back, and the Express is right behind him, which is no surprise, is it really? If the Tories get rid of him, I think the question is, who do they have to take his place? And is it more important that he is a Churchillian leader on the international stage, or that the Partygate thing carries on? So there are two sides to the argument, aren't there?
Pretty chaotic going for a new leader when you haven't got an obvious contender for replacement.
Well, Putin would see a weakness, wouldn't he? He would see a weakness here, that if we don't have confidence in our leader, what standing does he have on the international stage? By the way, have you noticed I'm wearing my Ukrainian colours for you, especially today?
It's very, very dapper anyway, but it's...
Thank you.
It is Easter Sunday in Ukraine.
It is. It's Easter Sunday, but the church in Russia has not denounced the war. No. I find that extraordinary. It is the official Easter there, and obviously Putin controls the church as well,
which is worrying, isn't it? What do you make of all of this? Dawn?
The Express is always going to be relentlessly positive about Boris Johnson, always has done, really. But Boris has come out fighting and saying, look, Partygate is distraction, I want to get on with the job in hand. And that is the message that Tories who are supporting him are really hammering home at the moment. And what he's saying in this speech, he's going to concentrate on the domestic issues that really matter to the voters. So let's move on from Partygate. This is his saying, not me. And we'll concentrate on, keeping serious offenders behind bars for longer, strengthening the NHS, obviously, again, smashing the people smuggling gangs, and concentrating on the cost of living crisis. Now, I think we all really are feeling the pinch. We know it's going to get worse. So I think the cost of living crisis, for me now, is sort of need to move away from Partygate. I'm getting a little bit, not bored with it. I'm not bored with it because I'm still angry that they set the rules, broke the rules while we were all suffering. I'm really angry about that, and that's what he should apologise for. But, this story is saying, moving on, we need to concentrate now. And talking what David was just talking about, who's there to replace him? Well, former Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt has been put forward, hasn't he?
Well, to be fair, in the last round, he proved to be very popular amongst Tory MPs. He's a very nice man. I've spent plenty of time with him over the years, if you add up all the interviews all together. I just think in terms of a leader, be a bit of a wet lettuce.
Yeah, he's been out on the sidelines for a long time now, hasn't he? But this would be quite a comeback. My own feeling is that this is just my opinion. I know that a lot of people are very angry with Boris, but let him get on with the job. The most important thing now is his negotiations where the war is concerned, and I'd let him get on with it.
He's quite bullish.
He's got to be, hasn't he? He's either got to be bullish or
he's always been
resign.
But I quite like that in a leader.
It's the personality, isn't it? The thing is, you could take most of the cabinet and show pictures of them to people on the street, and they wouldn't have a clue who they were. Because everybody knows Boris Johnson. And the fact that we all, and I know it annoys some people who are listening and watching, but the fact that we refer to him as Boris is more familiar, and it's, you know, why don't you call him Johnson? It's like, well, Boris is his name, and it's like, sure. But Labour believe, I think, getting rid of Boris might be easier to win back the northern red wall seats because they voted for Boris, I think, rather than the policies.
Surely the way he should stay in power and prove that he can govern is by doing something about the cost of living crisis.
Exactly, Anne. Exactly that. That's the one thing I think that would really win him.
And they don't seem to have done that.
No.
They don't seem to be addressing
Can you think of any Prime Minister who's had a more difficult time than the time that he's had? He's had Brexit, which he delivered.
He took on Brexit.
He took on
He
Brexit.
thought that's all he was going to. He was going to be the Brexit Prime Minister.
Who else has had a pandemic? And then he has a war. But of course, the war, you know, possibly he could turn to his advantage. But who would have the job?
We say that nearly every day, don't we?
Yeah.
Who on earth wants it?
And yet, you see, it doesn't matter what party you're in, they're all scrabbling for the top job, aren't they?
Well, people love power.
Indeed.
As we've seen in Russia.
Look, let's talk Sunday Telegraph, Dawn, and this comments from the Home Secretary about the BBC.
Why is she saying they're xenophobic?
Right, OK, this is Priti Patel, who has accused the BBC of exhibiting an undercurrent of xenophobia when reporting the government's new immigration deal with Rwanda. She's obviously been out in Rwanda, finalising the details. She had BBC with her, and they were basically... And some of the rhetoric coming out about Rwanda is a bit... I sort of know where she's coming from, because it's, you know, I've been to Rwanda. I covered the genocide there, and when it really was a hellhole. And, you know, you never forget, you know, those children that were treated appallingly and orphaned. But it's, you know, up until very recently, on a BBC travel website, it was one of the most inviting countries in Africa to go to. Now, just after Priti Patel announced this migration deal, that mysteriously disappeared. And yet the BBC themselves were even saying it's not actually a bad country, and then suddenly it's a hellhole. And So
do you think she's got a point?
I think she has got a point, to be honest with you, because I mean, it's, you know, there are according to the World Corruption Index, the Seychelles, Mauritius, and Cape Verde are all rated worse for corruption than Rwanda. And yet no one's mentioning that. And I wonder how many BBC executives go on holiday to the Seychelles and Mauritius without a problem.
Probably quite a few. What do you think, David?
Sometimes the BBC can't win, can they? I mean, you know, they're accused of being too right-wing, they're accused of being too left-wing. You know, the BBC can never get it right. So I do feel a certain sympathy for them. I don't say that just because I worked for them for many years, but, you know...
Why does the government constantly want to do down the BBC?
Because
I mean, any time they can ever get a chance to stick the knife in, they do.
I think the government are convinced that there is a very strong left-wing element within the BBC. And I think they're probably right. I think an awful lot of people that, you know, come out of university with very left-wing beliefs, and the BBC is a wonderful platform for them to express them.
But it is healthy, isn't it, that any, especially a state broadcaster, as we have now, should constantly question the government, isn't it?
Of course, yeah, but sometimes...
But they always see that as left-wing press.
But sometimes, you know, you're watching the news at 6 or the news at 10, and you hear a government spokesman who gets about 30 seconds, and then you hear an opposition spokesman who gets about a minute to shoot everything down.
They often have more to say if they're in opposition, don't they? They'll say better things, they'll give you better quotes.
One thing the BBC haven't mentioned in all their criticism of Priti Patel's plan, and by the way, I don't think it's the best idea ever, personally, but they never actually mentioned that it was Tony Blair who originally mooted the idea of using Tanzania, this is 2004, to process migrants.
Did he?
BBC never, 2004.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, the BBC never mentioned that one.
Well, we have now.
The home of free speech.
Yeah.
We're not biased at all.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, that.
So, David, with your Ukrainian colours on today, let's turn to the Sunday Times.
Yes, the Sunday Times front page. Ukraine is pleading for weapons. And actually, we discover now that Ukraine has been denied weapons for many years by 3 successive prime ministers. Very interesting, actually, while France and Germany, it turns out, have supplied arms to Russia for years. Yes. So Russia has been getting arms from Germany and France, and Ukraine has been begging for help for years, and this has been turned down by successive governments. And you feel, in a way, don't you, with this war, we should have seen it coming, shouldn't we? You know, all the signs were there. You know, you look at Crimea.
That was a fairly big hint, wasn't it?
Was that kind of brushed under the carpet? How did that happen? And I think that after Crimea, I think that Putin thought the same thing was going to happen in Ukraine, and I think he has got a shock with the reaction that there has been from the West about it. I don't think he saw that coming.
But British troops have been in Ukraine for years, training Ukrainian armed forces on anti-tank systems. Yeah. So we have been there, we have been doing things for a long, long time.
I think we have done more than almost anybody. I think we've supplied more arms and, as you say, training as well. So I think that there are other countries, without naming names, that have probably let the side down.
France and Germany?
We've done our bit, and Boris is banging that drum, isn't he?
But he is. But it was 2016 when Boris was Foreign Secretary that we actually turned down the Ukrainian pleas for military hardware. We would send sort of like, you know, non-lethal help, but we wouldn't send military hardware that they were begging for at the time. This is 2 years after Crimea at the time. And that was Boris Johnson doing that then. Yeah. So we should have seen this coming. And the reason we didn't do it was we didn't want to antagonise Russia. Well,
it might be the money. It might have been the money.
There's always money somewhere.
I mean, look at these. You know,
we haven't had enough money to buy our own weapons. And
I mean, these Javelin anti-tank missiles, which are hugely effective, they're 85 grand a pop.
This is Germany's excuse, isn't it? We can't send all the arms you want from us because we can't afford it, and we need them to defend ourselves. OK.
As you say, they can always find the money if they absolutely need to and want to.
I think the Russian infiltration has been interesting, hasn't it? The fact that the way that they infiltrated this country, the way that so many people depended on Russia for oil and supplies like that. And, you know, that's been very clever. And again, you know, it's easy to be wise after the event, but a lot of this we should have anticipated along the way. And we're now paying the price for that.
We're out of time, really. I just want to ask you very briefly, do you think we should now reassess what's going on with China? Because, of course, China's infiltrating Africa. Isn't it huge?
Well, I think China's interest in Russia, that's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, what are their feelings about Russia? They haven't really said, have they?
They haven't really condemned it, have they? I mean, but then again...
But if China and Russia got together... That would
be a problem, yeah. Look, thank you both. David, Dawn, we shall catch you a little bit later on.
And now to something we've been sort of hinting at all morning that we were going to talk about, and I know you're interested in it because we've already got lots of GB views coming in about this. Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries has accused commentators of mocking her dyslexia after she muddled her words in a video that was posted on social media.
It's a TikTok video. She's heard talking about people being able to downstream rather than download films online, and talks about tennis courts as pitches.
And then in a tweet, Ms Dorries explained the communication difficulties associated with living through dyslexia, adding that she finds solace in writing.
Now, although that tweet has prompted some mixed responses, it does beg the question, is it time for greater public awareness of dyslexia? Well, let's talk to Deborah Mitchell, who's the founder of Heaven Skincare and joins us now. And as someone with dyslexia, do you think it's about time that we were talking about this in a much more open way?
Most definitely, because I don't think people realise that when you're actually communicating with people, when you have dyslexia, both sides of your brain work at the same time. So a dyslexic person is actually has to work much harder than anybody else to achieve a conversation. So it's your right brain and your left brain. So Nadia actually probably is cleverer than a lot of us because, even me included, but you have to work so much harder to find the words. So somebody with a right brain, very logical, will actually get a word straight away. But Nadia probably will find the solution to an awful lot of things that person won't. And the people that are mocking her really should think again, actually, because she might be that clever. She could end up being Prime Minister or something later on.
I mean, actually, the modelling of the words, I think, was completely innocuous anyhow, but people did choose to mock her about it. She says that her sort of dyslexia, she can write, and it doesn't seem to affect her writing as badly as just being able to grasp the right word when she's speaking. Is that common?
Well, with spell check, of course you can write a little bit better, because most of the time spell check will find a word for you with dyslexia. There's plenty of spell checks that allow you to actually write properly now. There are different types of dyslexia, but most definitely any dyslexic person will find it difficult to find a word, and they will communicate slightly different to other people. I myself, I've invented products like the bee venom mask that's been a worldwide success. I would not have been able to invent that if I hadn't have had dyslexia. And she will work harder than anybody else to achieve her goals. And just by saying downloaded or downstreaming, the difference is utterly stupid just to pick on somebody for something that they find that they are doing on a daily life, and they're really working really hard, and just pick on them for that. If there was some other disability that she had, people wouldn't be allowed to pick on it, would they?
No, they wouldn't. Look, I mean, rather than... We are a nation, somehow, that seems to want to apologise for things that we have wrong with us a little bit. Whereas, I mean, instead of sort of trying to make do with dyslexia, should it be celebrated by those people who are dyslexic?
I don't think it's celebrated by people with dyslexia. And I don't think Nadia did celebrate it. I think what she did is she coped and overcome something that she'd got with vigour. That is very different to celebrating. That's, look, you've got me, this is how I am, I can't change it, and I'm going to do the very best for you, and I'm going to find, streaming, sort of improving communication with Wi-Fi and things like that is a really good thing to do, because the companies, are actually charging you for something that they're not giving you, and finding more pitches or tennis courts or tennis pitches. What's the difference? Getting those people out there and finding them is really, really important, and finding the funds for them. So I don't think she was celebrating it. I think she was saying, look, hey, I'm actually just going to get this done. And don't you worry if I got a little bit of a word mixed up. It's something that I do. And that's something that actually, frankly, you've got to live with.
But shouldn't we celebrate it? That's my point. Shouldn't we actually celebrate these differences?
I don't think anybody would walk around me and celebrate the fact that I'm dyslexic. Sometimes I get things quite wrong. And the fact that they celebrate as a company owner would be that I give them a lot of jobs because I am dyslexic. So they don't walk around celebrating, no. But I don't think it's something that you should be picked on. I think it should be, everybody's part of something else, aren't they? We are part of a bigger system, and we are individuals. But I think to pick on somebody in her job, in her job role, and use that as a way to attack her or attack the party that she belongs to, just because she's made two words slightly different. I mean, eventually, do you know what will happen? It'll be downstreaming anyway.
Yes,
I think downstreaming is a very good word. Yeah. It's worth remembering too, isn't it, that there have been some very, very famous and successful dyslexics. Amongst them, Albert Einstein, but Jim Carrey, Walt Disney, Leonardo da Vinci, apparently, Tom Cruise, Richard Branson, Orlando Bloom. The list goes on. These are people who've been, most of them, prepared to say that they're dyslexic, but also maybe not celebrating, but at least have been able to show the world that it doesn't hold you back from a very, very incredibly successful career.
I think it helps in certain cases. I myself, probably being bullied because of it, or being bullied anyway, never felt like I actually do want to celebrate it at all. I have actually won an award for my achievements in my company and for creating my Bee Venom mask. So I did get an award for it. But I think people, I think she's amazing. I think she's amazing to do what she's doing, and I think we should champion women that are achieving, and I think we should champion women that are achieving with something that is not the norm, shall we say. I don't think we should say it's something like it's a disability, because I don't believe it is. I think it's just a difference.
Yeah. Deborah Mitchell, really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
You see, I celebrate being a type 1.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I do celebrate it, although it can be a pain in the neck at times. But still, I'm sort of quite pleased about it. It's sort of, look at the positive aspects it's given me. So I'm all for celebrating things.
Well, Jackie, one of our viewers who rang in, what's the word?
Emailed.
Yes, thank you. Earlier, she said that her husband's dyslexic, and she said, I've told him to embrace it. There's a bit of a difference maybe between embracing and celebrating.
Yeah, maybe.
You obviously embrace the type 1, but you actually say you celebrate it.
I celebrate it, yeah. I mean, Jackie's been in touch on this and saying my son says psychopath for psychopath. Why is he talking about psychopaths, Jackie? Yeah. And electricery for electricity.
Oh, I like that.
So we all use these words now. He's 30. So my cousin once wrote Cleethorpes as Cleethorpes, and that stuck too.
Yes.
I mean, the little thing.
We all do a little bit of that, actually,
yes,
don't we? Sometimes you can't quite grasp the word, but you can make up another that's just as good. Yeah. Is that dyslexia? Probably no, and I don't want to trivialise dyslexia. But we all...
A touch of it.
We all have brains that play with words.
Yeah.
Trickery going on in your brain.
Yeah. Wendy in Canterbury says, I've woken up to a beautiful sunrise and your show. What more could I ask for? It's set me up for a day at work. Can I be a bit self-indulgent and ask you to wish me a happy 70th birthday for tomorrow? It would make my day. Wendy,
yes.
Enjoy being 69 for one last day.
Yeah, and then celebrate being 70 tomorrow. Oh, yes. It's a milestone. Wonderful. We were talking about whether if your other half or your son or, somebody rings you from the car when they're driving, they choose that time to ring you. Is that a real phone call? Yes. Or is it just a way they are just killing time? Sue says, you are so right, Anne. My son only rings when he is in the car. Much better things to do when he gets home.
Oh, well.
Is it that?
I think it's multitasking. It's very good. Karen, morning to you. Karen, oh, you need to send a picture. She's watching from Balnain, just outside Drumnadrochit.
Yes.
On the beautiful shores of Loch Ness. My husband is snoring loudly, so I had to turn the TV up. Great show. I look forward to the weekends. Keep up the good work.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
It's lovely to have us there. I hope the hubbies stop snoring by now.
And finally, we embrace our untidy desk. Colin in Gillingham says, I love the untidy desk you guys present it with papers spread, fooled in bowls all over the place and drink. Yes, it looks busy, but I worked in the desk tidy policy at work. When you finished at the end of the day, you have to put everything away, clear it. My old boss would hate this.
Yeah. It's fun. It's chilled. We're very chilled.
Yeah, be chilled. It's Sunday.
There you go. Stay with us. We've got loads more to come for you after the weather.
Looking ahead to today's weather then, and the UK is looking largely dry for many, with the warmest weather across western parts of the country. Taking a look at the details of where you live.
And the southwest, for many, it's going to be dry and sunny this afternoon. The west of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, a bit cloudy with the risk of rain.
Further east, and we may see the odd shower, but for many it'll be dry, feeling cooler along the coast thanks to the breeze.
Across into Wales then, we'll see plenty of sunshine throughout the day. The warmest weather will be in the west, with highs reaching the high teens.
The Midlands, however, could see a few showers develop during Sunday, especially towards the east. The showers, though, will be mainly light and fleeting, allowing the sunshine to quickly return.
Let's head north, and for many in northern England, it's going to be dry and sunny. However, low cloud may linger across some eastern coasts. Where it does so, it is going to be a little bit chilly.
Low cloud may also affect parts of northeastern Scotland today, but elsewhere should see a dry day with sunny spells. In the sunshine, temperatures may climb to about 16 if you're lucky.
The sunshine is also going to be plentiful across Northern Ireland. Very little cloud around. The northeasterly wind, however, will keep some coastal areas a little bit on the cool side.
So there you are, a few showers continuing this afternoon before easing this evening, leaving many parts dry with clear spells. And that is your weather for today.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The war in Ukraine stretches into its third month with no end still in sight.
Good morning to you. It is 7 o'clock on Sunday, April the 24th. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
And a very warm welcome to you. We are live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio, and of course online.
Yeah, coming up for you today, no orthodox Easter truce in Ukraine as the war enters its third month. But as Russian forces regroup in the east, can Ukraine hold them back? We'll bring you the latest.
Voters in France will decide today their country's fate. Will they give centrist Emmanuel Macron 5 more years, or replace him with their first far-right president in Marine Le Pen? We are live in Paris all morning.
Tyson Fury announces he's retiring after retaining the WBC heavyweight title with a stunning knockout of Dillian Whyte. We'll talk to Ada McGee, who'll bring you the highlights.
And of course, you can join in any of our discussions by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet @gbnews. Hopes for a truce in Ukraine to celebrate today being the Orthodox Easter Sunday. Well, those hopes have faded as talks between Moscow and Kiev have apparently stalled.
Now, today marks 2 months since the Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered his troops to invade his neighbouring country.
At a press conference, the Ukrainian president said he's not afraid to meet Putin if it leads to a peace deal.
Well, Zelensky also said that the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken will go to Kiev today. Now, if that trip happens, it's going to be the first time that a US official has been to Ukraine since the war began.
Well, we're joined now by Alexandra Marchivuk, mispronounced there, the head of the Centre for Civil Liberties, Ukraine. Can I just ask you a very good morning to you? And by the way, happy Easter Sunday. What did you make of President Zelensky's comments?
Yesterday Zelensky told a lot of different messages, but I would like to emphasize to particular one of his message. He mentioned about blockade of Mariupol and necessity to open humanitarian corridor from Mariupol. And because we all in despair how to make it happen and how to save more than 100,000 of civilians from city, he applied to the Pope. Maybe according to Easter and all this celebration, the Pope can help us to open this humanitarian corridor and to provide a safe evacuation civilians from the city.
Why do you think it is so difficult to? I mean, ordinarily you would expect this sort of thing to. It's never easy, but it would happen. And with 100,000 people, we think, still in Mariupol, there is desperate need there. Why is Russia so reluctant?
It's because Russia uses war crimes as a deliberate method of warfare. It's a military logic. First, they liquidate the civil infrastructure and deprive people from the water, electricity, heating. Then they isolate the city and don't provide opportunity to humanitarian assistance to reach the city and to people to evacuate. It's all done in order to stop resistance of locals, because it's very hard to resist and to defend the city when you have enormous pain among civilians, when you have children, when you have injured people, and when you have to take care about them. So that's why Russia uses this like a method how to siege city and how to quickly occupy city.
It must be so distressing for you, especially on a day like today, to still be talking of war, to still be asking for weapons and more support from other countries, when normally Easter Sunday in the Ukraine is a very joyful day. Do you think many people will be able to get on with an ordinary day today?
Unfortunately not. Because also Ukrainian officials ask not to go to the church, with a tradition for a lot of regions in Ukraine. We expected that Russians can deliberately shell in on the church, and that's why it will be a very unusual Easter for Ukraine.
Oh, that's an awful thought, isn't it? That churches could become a target under these circumstances. Yeah. Look, the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is apparently heading to Kiev today. How important is that meeting, not only in terms of the symbolism, but also in terms of the demands from President Zelensky to get more hard weaponry into the country?
I think it's very important and very right route in comparison with the route of General Secretary of UN, who firstly planned to go to Moscow and then only to Kiev. And we know that even the route in diplomacy means a lot. That's why I think it's a huge mistake of General Secretary of UN that he firstly have to meet with Lavrov and Putin and only then with President Zelensky.
Why do you think he did it? Because it would be much more powerful message to Moscow if he actually came to see the damage and the terrible distress that's being caused by the war, if he went to see that first and then was able to tell Putin what was going on, having seen it with his own eyes.
I really don't understand it, because it's so obvious, even for me, who are not diplomats, that he first has to be in Kiev and only then go to Moscow. Maybe it's also a reflection that all this international system are in crisis.
It's a very strange situation. Look, Alexandra, as always, we really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Many thanks. Many thanks. It is an extraordinary way to do it, isn't it?
It is. There must be some advice that he's been given, or maybe caveats from Moscow, or I don't know.
Maybe caveats from Moscow. But if he were actually able to sit there and say to Putin, look, don't tell me it's not happening, I've seen it.
Yeah.
That would be much more powerful.
It would be much more
Maybe that's
powerful.
what the Russians didn't want.
But of course, I mean, is Putin going to listen? He's not going to listen to reason now, is he?
No.
I wouldn't have thought.
You wonder what the point is of the meeting at all, except that you do have to keep those diplomatic routes open, don't you?
You do. You do.
You would hope that diplomacy would have stopped this ever happening, and it certainly hasn't done yet.
Oh, it's worrying stuff. Look, loads of you getting in touch this morning. Thank you for that. And in the midst of all this gloom, it's really important to hear what else is going on in the real world with you guys and what you're up to. And working hard, as a lot of people are, doing some pretty tough jobs. Michael's in Gloucester, morning to you, who says he's just off to work now, is heading to work in a care home. Hugely important work. So, you know, hope you have a good day.
Yeah, we're glad we're a part of your early morning anyway.
Yeah. And what a job that is. I mean, looking after people who need our elderly relatives at the end of the day.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Very, very important job. Yeah. But off you go. Good morning, and it's nice for you to have watched us for a bit anyway. Robert in Switzerland said, oh, it's interesting, a point from Switzerland about Bootle. We were talking about the town of Bootle earlier, and I was saying, because it's in Cumbria, yeah? But there is another Bootle, apparently. Robert says there are 2 towns in England with the name Bootle. But there's a Bootle in Liverpool with a population of over 50,000 and Bootle in Cumbria with a population of 750. They're probably 2 very different Bootles, actually.
They will be very different Bootles. And, of course, there's a jewellers called Bootles.
There is?
There?
Or
Well,
that's
was.
Boodles, isn't it?
Is it Boodles?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
It's funny how things are revolving around words this morning. It's because we've started talking about words, because we were talking about dyslexia, but also, you know, if it's nowhere near as serious as dyslexia, it's just the fact that we all love words and we get words wrong, and in many cases we make them up. Yeah. And we've had some lovely ones. Marion says, my siblings and I regularly make up our own words, and my favourite is misapprelusion. I love it.
Great.
We can't figure out exactly what you mean by misapprelusion, but I like it. She says, I still use it, and you'd be surprised how many people think it is a real word.
I can believe it.
A real word. Oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Yeah. My dad was originally a senior recording engineer with the BBC, and he used his own language when testing equipment with his colleagues, and that's how it all started.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
We love words.
Someone's been in touch saying my granddaughter referred to a moustache as a snoosh.
Yes. I think that's a better word than moustache.
It's funny, I do that at home when I had my breakfast or something, and I say, oh, that was dishyless.
Yeah.
Instead of delicious, because that's what my nephew did when he was little. He said dishyless.
But we know what you mean.
Yeah.
See, that's why misapprelusion is really interesting. I think a misapprelusion is probably just when you've got something wrong, or maybe you think it looks like one thing and then it's another. Maybe. So it's a misapprelusion.
Maybe.
I like misapprelusion. That's really nice.
There you go. Keep your thoughts coming through. Keep your weird words coming through.
Yeah.
We'll create a new language by 10 o'clock this morning.
Yes, that would be good fun.
It is 10 minutes past 7. Let's just bring you up to date with the headlines. And the Ukrainian president is hoping to secure more powerful defence weapons from the US when top officials meet with him in Kiev today. It's as Russia resumes attacks on the final stronghold in the city of Mariupol. The new footage, which appears to show up to 1,000 women and children sheltering with troops in the underground bunkers of the steel plant there.
And the Home Secretary has criticised the BBC for its coverage of the government's new immigration deal with Rwanda. Talking to the Sunday Telegraph, Priti Patel accused journalists there of exhibiting an undercurrent of xenophobia whilst reporting on the plans. The Home Office insists it will save lives by deterring migrants crossing the channel in small boats.
Tyson Fury has beaten Dillian Whyte at Wembley to retain his WBC heavyweight world title. There was a crowd of 94,000. Wow. 6'9" Fury caught his opponent on the chin, with the ref calling time in the 6th round. The champion called himself a legend. As you do. Modesty is his only fault. Yeah. But he insists it's now time to retire.
Polling stations in France are now open as voters today will decide the country's next president.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's going to determine whether the current president, Emmanuel Macron, keeps his job, which hasn't happened for decades, or if his far-right opponent, Marine Le Pen, will actually take over.
Well, our reporter Paul Hawkins filed this report from Paris.
48.7 million French people are going to exercise their democratic right to vote starting at 8 a.m. local time. The polls remaining open for 12 hours here in Paris, 11 hours in other parts of France. They're open later here in France because of the sheer volume of people. Places like this are where they'll be exercising their democratic right. That's a school. Many schools will turn into polling stations for the day. They'll be coming and looking at posters like this. You don't have to be an expert in French to work out this says, "Where is my bureau to vote?" And then there are addresses on there to help French people decide who they're going to vote for, if indeed they are going to vote. Voter turnout is expected to be low because of the choices on the ballot, which include Marine Le Pen from the National Rally. She is going for her third pitch at becoming president. This is the closest chance she'll get to being president in this competition, in this vote, I should say. Of course, she's up against Emmanuel Macron, the current incumbent. He's trying to become France's first president to be re-elected for 20 years. So it's a big day for him. However, he is expected to win. The polls at the moment show that he is 10 points ahead of Marine Le Pen, so it's possible Marine Le Pen can win if voter turnout is low. And the reason that a lot of people are feeling very apathetic, politically apathetic about this election is because he has alienated a lot of left-wing support with his economic policies, which are perceived as right-wing and pro-business. So we spoke to two people yesterday in the 16th district of Paris, and one said to us that she's planning to spoil her ballot because she doesn't like the choice of Macron, who's too capitalist, or Marine Le Pen, who she views as too extremist. Another woman said that she's going to vote for Macron reluctantly because he is the least worst of the candidates. And indeed, Macron himself has said, look, even if you don't like me, please don't vote for Marine Le Pen because, in his view, she is an extremist, she is a racist. He points to policies such as the fact that she wants to ban Muslim women from wearing the hijab in public, and she wants to give social housing and welfare and jobs to French nationals. So she would say that she's putting France first. Indeed, her message was that the choice is either between Macron or France. So that's the choice for the voters if they choose to go. Voter turnout will be, or is expected to be, quite low. But if Marine Le Pen were to win, and it's possible, not probable, but possible, that would be a seismic result for France and indeed Europe.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how it goes. So let's go to Paris now and meet Paris-based journalist David Chazan, who I think is near one of the polling stations for us. Good morning, David. How's it going? Are there signs of apathy or excitement?
Well, it's still early, Anne, so I've only seen a trickle of people coming to vote so far. We've got nearly 12 hours before the polls close. Now, this polling station behind me is right in the heart of Paris. It's near the Marais district, and this is an affluent area where most people are well educated, so you're not going to find very many Le Pen supporters here. To give you an idea of how this area voted, Le Pen came 6th in the first round, where of course nationally she came 2nd, which put her through into the final runoff today. So the people I've been speaking to are saying, yes, we're going to vote for Mr. Macron, not because we love him, not because we think he's perfect, but because we don't want Marine Le Pen to be in charge of France, because we see her as an extremist and we're not sure that her economic policies make any sense whatsoever. And the picture in other parts of the country is very, very different, because last week I was up in a small town near the Belgian border, a decaying industrial town. There's very little going on there. A lot of young people are very depressed, and that's a place that voted overwhelmingly for Marine Le Pen. And some of the young people there said, look, the population of our town's declining. We've got hardly any public transport, hardly any public services. Marine Le Pen seems closer to our concerns than Mr. Macron. He's just an elitist, he's haughty, he talks down to people, and that's why we're going to vote for him. And they said our town is really falling apart and its population is declining, not because people are dying, but because all the young people are leaving, because there's nothing for them to do here. So, of course, the picture you're seeing in this area, very, very different.
It's a bit depressing, though, isn't it, David, as far as when you look at the sort of future of France over the next 5 years, because it is more than likely that Macron will succeed. That's what all the polls are suggesting, that he's going to win by the end of today. And yet not because people like him, but just succeeding because he's not Marine Le Pen. That doesn't bode well, does it?
No, I think whoever wins this election, I think you're right. I think Mr. Macron has every chance of winning. I think his margin of victory will be smaller than it was 5 years ago, when he beat Marine Le Pen by a very comfortable margin. But whoever wins this election is going to be leading a divided country, and there's going to be a lot of very disgruntled people. And the reason that the turnout's likely to be quite low by French standards is because many voters just feel that neither of these candidates really represents their views. And so whoever's in charge by the end of, by tomorrow, let's say, is going to have to take into account that this nation is divided geographically, economically, and even by age, because the majority of young people voted either for the far left or the far right in the first round. So if it is Mr. Macron, they're not going to feel too happy with his centrist policies. Now, in the past few days, he's indicated that he may change course slightly. He's promised that he'll try to do more in terms of housing and jobs and public services for the left-behind parts of France. But this is an election and candidates make promises. Sometimes they keep them, sometimes they don't.
And David, finally, we'll get the result, I suppose, sometime tomorrow. But does the media in France do exit polling the same way we do?
No, they don't do exit polls in France. They do something else, because the counting will go on throughout the day. And so by 7 p.m. UK time, we should know who's won, because they'll be doing estimates or projections, if you like, based on partial vote counts. And they're usually very, very accurate. And the only scenario in which it may take a bit longer to find out would be if the vote was almost too close to call. The official result should come sometime during the night, and we'll know by tomorrow. But generally, by the close of polling, you pretty much know who's won.
Gosh. Oh. Yeah. Very efficient.
It is very efficient, isn't it?
David, thanks very much indeed. Yes, that's more efficient than the way we do it, I guess, isn't it?
Well, it is.
There's always that fluster of getting the boxes and people running with the boxes to
it's quite exciting, though. I quite like that.
I love election nights. I absolutely love them.
I do. But if you're ever sent out, well, not that you're likely to be, unless you're a journalist, you're unlikely to be sent out, but you do spend, at a count, you do spend hours with your crew just sitting
around
on boxes.
Yeah. Well, so do the candidates as well, don't they?
Oh,
everybody's just sitting there waiting for people to count stuff. And it's so it comes down to something very, very basic as just sort of counting that. Amazing. But it's still exciting.
I think it's quite exciting. Whenever there is the next general election...
Whenever it is.
I think we're going to have a great time on
that will be a very exciting one. Yes, it will, won't
because
it?
we'll all be out
We'll all
about
be here or there.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
We'll be struggling along with the technology and trying to get connections. It'll be great.
Yes.
It'll be so much fun, actually. If we make it a bit of fun, that would be quite nice.
Yeah, we'll probably all be posted out to, the seats that are obviously the most dangerous to various parties. And where will they be, I wonder?
Do you fancy a bit of that, then?
Oh, I love it. I love anything that's big and live like that, yes. Yeah. Love it. Very exciting. Journalists tend to get a bit overexcited at things like that. I know there are a lot of people at home thinking, "Oh, this is boring," and switching it off.
You won't do that.
No, but
through the night.
That's what happens. Yeah. Or you have an election party. Have you ever had an election party?
No.
Oh, their election parties are wonderful. They go through the night, and you're watching every count as the count comes in, and have another swig of beer or something. Did it go your way? Did it go my way? And then the whole family starts debating it, and you have people round. Right. Oh, election parties are brilliant.
Oh no, I've never done one of those.
Yeah.
I'll be round at yours on the.
We'll be working. For the local, right, maybe.
No, we will be working. It's Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll be working. Yeah. We'll just have to come in early, Anne. Even earlier. Stay with us. We've got plenty more to come for you this morning, including the latest on the sport and how Fury beat White. We'll bring the latest with Aidan.
Looking ahead to today's weather then, and the UK is looking largely dry for many, with the warmest weather across western parts of the country. Taking a look at the details of where you live.
And the southwest, for many, it's going to be dry and sunny this afternoon. The west of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, a bit cloudy with a risk of rain.
Further east, and we may see the odd shower, but for many it'll be dry, feeling cooler along the coast thanks to the breeze.
Across into Wales, then, we'll see plenty of sunshine throughout the day. The warmest weather will be in the west, with highs reaching the high teens.
The Midlands, however, could see a few showers develop during Sunday, especially towards the east. The showers, though, will be mainly light and fleeting, allowing the sunshine to quickly return.
Let's head north, and for many in northern England, it's going to be dry and sunny. However, low cloud may linger across some eastern coasts. Where it does so, it is going to be a little bit chilly.
Low cloud may also affect parts of northeastern Scotland today, but elsewhere should see a dry day with sunny spells. In the sunshine, temperatures may climb to about 16 if you're lucky.
The sunshine is also going to be plentiful across Northern Ireland. Very little cloud around. The northeasterly wind, however, will keep some coastal areas a little bit on the cool side.
So there you are, a few showers continuing this afternoon before easing this evening, leaving many parts dry with clear spells. And that is your weather for today.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
"7:25 morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne, live across the UK, online, on your TV, and of course on your radio.
Now, what were you doing last night? Were you watching the big match that we were all talking about yesterday? Because Tyson Fury enjoyed a happy homecoming as he retained his WBC heavyweight title with a sensational sixth-round knockout of British rival Dillian Whyte. This is what Fury told reporters when he was asked about his future.
Before I fought Deontay Wilder 3, I was in my house in Vegas and I said to Paris, I said, this is going to be the last fight, babe. I just don't want to do it anymore. And she said, yes, I'm happy. Let it be the last fight. And then after the fight, I said to her in the shower, I said, it's definitely the last fight. There's no more of this. And then I was happy with that decision. And I get a call from Frank saying, you know, we can do a homecoming fight at Wembley. And I was like, I said to Paris, I said, I've got to go one more time. I've got to get the old boots out again. And then I come back for a big fight at home, and it's been amazing. I couldn't have topped it off. It's been a fairy tale few years. It's been absolutely more than I ever dreamed of as a kid and as an adult. So big thank you to everybody who's helped me in my career.
Well, then he was really pushed on whether he would actually retire.
I definitely think so. But I'm not ruling out, I will not rule out exhibitions, for sure. Get some of that Floyd Mayweather money.
Did you hear that? Is he
doesn't
wearing
look as though he's wearing anything.
No, he could be totally stark as
And if you're listening on the radio, he clearly had no shirt on, but frankly, he looked as though he hadn't got anything on at all.
Oh, well, why not?
Very relaxed after winning, I suppose.
Very chilled. Aidan McGee is here. Morning, Aidan.
Morning.
He's not actually going to... They always say they're going to
he said he's sure he thinks he is.
I must have reported on in the last...
maybe.
Yeah.
In the last... Since about 2015, when he went to Germany and beat Vladimir Klitschko, I must have reported on at least 3 or 4 Tyson Fury retirement stories, and I was told by the boxing correspondent at my previous employer, said, look, he may have tweeted that he's going to retire, but take it with a pinch of salt. He'll be back this time next week. Now, what will keep him in the ring is that the winner of Joshua against Usyk, which is probably going to happen maybe in Saudi Arabia at the end of July, that will give him an opportunity to fight the winner of those two and make it an undisputed, because he holds 1 belt at the moment.
Yeah.
So, but commercially, I mean, especially if Joshua wins another all-British match-up at Wembley or somewhere like that, or maybe in Cardiff, and you could see that's a real money spinner, and that's one that we've wanted to see for a long time. We thought it was going to happen last autumn, but Joshua won. Joshua lost, sorry.
Talking about money...
Yeah.
What did he make for last night, do we know?
Well, the purse was $41 million. So whatever that translates to in pounds, I'm not sure. It's not that far off 41 now with the exchange rate.
30.
Yeah, so I
34.
think Dillian White's share was about £8 million.
And
so
he gets the rest.
He gets the rest. Yeah, I mean, listen, Dillian White didn't
not bad, huh?
Dillian White didn't fight too badly. He came out in the southpaw in the first round, which is what Carlos Moreno predicted he would do. And he realised he wasn't getting a way through. And I think the southpaw thing is a stance where you go a bit lower with your fist. It's a traditional stance for a left-handed boxer, which Dillian White is not. But then he realised it wasn't going to get through. It wasn't drawing Tyson Fury in, because if it was going to be a slugfest, I would have fancied White to win it, because I think he's probably stronger. But Fury was just too smart. He leaned back, he stood off him, he picked him off. He was in control of all the rounds before he got the uppercut. And it's just the variation in which and the tactics that he's using to win fights. He can win any way against any size of opponent, in any place, any time, anywhere. And that's why we're looking at one of the greats here. And when I can't remember which of you it was who said it's a fight for the ages, and I just scoffed at it and said, oh, do us a favour. I think we might have actually seen a Sky fight for the ages last night. Yeah, and I didn't predict that. But I just thought that was Tyson Fury cementing his place up there with the greats of the sport, the Tysons, the Lewis, the Muhammad Alis. And I think there's 1 or 2 fights left in him. I think if you look at Usyk and Joshua's the commercial one, which will drive the thing financially, I think, in this country specifically. But Usyk is somebody who schooled Anthony Joshua at White Hart Lane last September. He's a Ukrainian. He's been given permission from the Ukrainian government to resume his training camp for the Joshua fight. If he beats Joshua, he'll fancy his chance of taking on Fury, and he'll pose Fury a greater problem, I think, than Joshua will. So, in answer to your question at the beginning, this is not the end of Tyson Fury. We look at the celebrations last night. This is not a man who was done with boxing. And he's too young as well. He's only in his early 30s. He looks older, but he's only in his early 30s.
Is he?
He's about 33, I think, yeah.
But he was coming over as though he was really enjoying the moment so much.
He was.
And he will be offered so much.
Yeah, his PR has changed so much, Anne, as well. I mean, in my previous role, I wasn't allowed to interview him live because my output producer said to me, look, he swears too much. We can't control what he's going to say. So I had to disappear. I said, oh, you're being a bit risk-averse here. So I disappeared into an edit suite. I mean, every third word he said was a swear word, and I thought, maybe the output editor might have had this one right. But he's modified himself since then. I think maturity, I think fatherhood, I think being, the senior man in his team as well. He's got a bigger and bigger team now. They've made him aware of his responsibilities as he's gone around the world. I think his wife's been very good for him as well, and she's rounded off those hard edges, and he's much more of a human being that we can relate to now, especially after his problems and his battles with mental health.
Yeah, 94,000 people. I mean, wow.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, that's why it was the biggest all-British heavyweight fight that we've seen. I mean, we think back to Lewis against Bruno in the days when boxing here wasn't quite as big as it is now. 29,000 people in Cardiff, 1993. You had to go all the way back to 1971, Bugner against Henry Cooper, to get those kind of numbers. So this was in a different league all by itself. I mean, back in 2014, we saw Flirting Groves filled out 100,000 at Wembley, but it was a different weight. But I think the heavyweight, it's quite sexy, that particular weight, in terms of the interest as well.
It's interesting as well, isn't it? Traditionally, you just mentioned names there that are household names. They're not just boxing names. They're not just sports names.
They transcended their
sport. Yeah, you think of Frank Bruno, you think of Henry Cooper, and all of them. Muhammad Ali, obviously.
You must have interviewed Frank Bruno.
Yeah. And Henry Cooper and Muhammad Ali. So there you go. And I wouldn't have known anything about boxing, but they were mega stars. Do you think he's got that
without question.
potential?
Without question, I think he's there already.
Yes, I mean,
knows.
that interview here.
You walk down the street, everyone knows who Tyson Fury is. And I think that's been the case for a while now. I mean, when he was floored by Deontay Wilder 3 years ago, he'd fought the perfect fight, but Wilder had that dynamite in his hands and he floored Tyson Fury, and everyone thought, that's it, he cannot get up from that. And he said he did it. What drove him to get up? It was almost like someone rising from the dead when he lifted himself off the canvas. And he said, I did it for every sufferer of mental health out there, because I did, I wanted to prove that you can still get up from the lowest of the low. And the psychological damage that did to Deontay Wilder when he said, I've just hit him with his best shot, I've floored him, I've given him everything he's got, and he's still getting up. That stood him in good stead for the trilogy. And that's a legendary fighter, and that's somebody who will live among the pantheon of the greats forevermore. Regardless of what he does now.
Oh, well, it'd be
even if he quits.
Even if he quits.
I bet his wife wants him to now.
I don't know. I mean, it depends how quickly they go through the prize money, doesn't it?
Well, it's interesting. We were talking yesterday. We've been talking about council housing and social housing and all that sort of thing. And someone yesterday said why more people should live in like static caravans. He lived in a static caravan.
Yes, he did.
On Walney Island near Barrow.
He's in Morecambe now. He's talking about the fortune that he's amassed. He said the problem with living in Morecambe. He said he gave a quote saying there's nothing to spend it on.
Yeah.
It was quite an austere life compared to the wealth that he accumulates. But when people get used to a certain lifestyle, and he and Paris are doing that at the moment, it's usually when the payday is so obvious and it's there dangling like a carrot, why wouldn't you take it? And that's why I think Joshua Usyk at some point in the next year or so will offer that opportunity, and we'll see him back in the ring at that point.
They never know when to retire, really.
No, they don't.
They go on it, but he's early 30s. They go on till their early 40s now, so he's got plenty of time.
Yeah, but if he's got the gift of the gab, as he obviously is, he could do other things, couldn't he?
Oh, easily, yeah.
Would you trust him in front of a microphone, though, for commentary? I don't know.
I can see him on Strictly. The footwork's good enough.
Yes, exactly. No, that's what I mean. It doesn't have to be sports commentary, does it? It could be just general stardom.
Yeah.
He could do it.
There you go.
But it was a good night anyway.
Yeah. Lovely stuff. Aidan, thank you. I can't imagine... Good old Frank Bruno. I used to love Frank Bruno, but he's not going to do panto like Frank used to do.
No, but I'll bet you the Strictly producers are on the phone to him.
Yeah, without doubt.
I bet they... I mean, wow, wouldn't that be a signing?
Yeah, it would.
Wouldn't stop him from doing the next boxing.
You wouldn't want to lose against him, though.
No.
You want to beat him, rather, but in Strictly.
Yeah. No, but the professional dancers would be really worried about who was going to be picked to check. Yes, it would, wouldn't it? And strong of mind,
Yeah, well, look, stay with us. Let us know what you think about that. Stay with us, though. We've got plenty more to come, including a look at the papers with David Hamilton and Dawn Neeson.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
.37 morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on your TV, on your radio and online.
So let's take a look at today's front pages, shall we? I am the leader Britain needs, says Boris Johnson. That's in the Sunday Express, saying that the Prime Minister remains defiant as he faces pressure over those Partygate fines.
The Home Secretary has claimed the BBC is guilty of xenophobia over the Rwanda refugee deal. The Sunday Telegraph says she's accused the scheme's critics of ignorance and lazy stereotyping.
The Mirror says P&O Ferries has sunk to a new low. The paper reports that the company is trying to cut the wages of the cheap staff who replaced the sacked crews.
The Sunday People says Rishi Sunak is in hot water. He's got plans for a new swimming pool in his North Yorkshire mansion, which could cost £13,000 a year to heat.
It's time to go through the papers now. Joining us this morning, broadcaster and legend David Hamilton, and former editor of the Daily Star, but also a legend, Dawn Neeson. I just don't want to out-legend anyone.
No.
David, our first story is from The Sun, and it's about the BBC, but it's not the one I was thinking it was going to be, about xenophobia. It's about fleas.
Yes, apparently the BBC has been hit by a flea plague, and there are fleas everywhere, all over the newsroom. A few mice have been spotted as well. As far as the fleas are concerned, I've known a few studios that have been bugged, but I think this, this is ridiculous. They need to clean up their act.
Are they talking about the new television centre in London?
Yeah, they're talking about the studios at News of 10 and News at 6.
The posh studios.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
And they're not like here, where it's clean as a whistle. They're
But they look wonderful and
riddled by
new and everything. But
riddled by fleas.
Well, that's the trouble. If rodents or sort of a plague of anything takes hold, even in a new building, it's the devil's own game to cover it.
I've worked in a few offices with a few rats, definitely.
Yeah. I'll bet you have.
What about the rodents?
Yeah, quite. I like the mice. They were quite cute, at least.
Yeah.
A few rats around there, aren't there? Well, definitely at the BBC.
I tell you what, though.
Didn't we have a mouse in here? Am I allowed to say that?
A couple of weeks ago, there was a mouse in. Everyone was just cooing over it, though.
Yeah. It's a BBC knocking day, isn't it, today?
But, I mean, the big studios, they're not in use throughout the rest of the day, are they? Or not that often. So there's plenty of time to get a fumigator in.
Yeah, I know, it's extraordinary. Obviously they're cutting costs, aren't they?
I've worked in a few studios in my time, though, that had all sorts of nasties.
Really?
Because, not generally a spanking new studio, but, so often in those days, like local radio or regional television or something would come out of some very old buildings, and you saw all sorts going on.
Yeah.
All sorts of ways.
Well, in my last employ, we had, it's going back 15, 20 years or so, but we had those coffee machines where you put the sachets in and it splurges it out. Stopped working in the newsroom.
Why?
So they opened it up and it was jam-packed with cockroaches.
Lovely. That's like a horror film.
I don't like.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Some people are eating their breakfast.
Yes, apologies, we'll move on. Gosh.
Dawn, let's stick it with The Sun, actually, on Sunday. Working from home.
Absolutely. This is a story it's also covered quite extensively in the Mail on Sunday, but civil servants, £160,000 to work from home. Lucrative positions in Whitehall are on offer with £160,000 salaries that still allow working from home. There are 21 highly paid London roles being advertised, including roles at the Ministry of Defence and the Home Office, including, and this is my particular favourite, positions including levelling up directors, OK, which are to level up on £144,000 a year. And this is at the same time as we have our Jacob Rees-Mogg literally going round the offices, and if there's no civil servants working in them, they're saying, right, we're not paying the lease anymore, we can't have you all working from home. The taxpayers are funding these expensive offices. If you don't need them to work in, we'll save money that way. So I can see his point, but I mean, these ridiculous salaries for working from home. Well,
hang on, you're paid for the job you do. If you can do the job from home, then is that really so ridiculous?
Quite clearly can't, Anne. I mean,
we're looking right now at the note that Jacob Rees-Mogg left behind on people's desks, or as you can see there, I think it's pinned up on the wall, saying, "I'm so sorry I missed you when I came to visit. You know, I have."
I look forward to seeing you in the office very soon, with every good wish. Right, Honourable.
I mean, how passive-aggressive is that?
It's very passive-aggressive, isn't it? Is he right to do that or not?
Well, I think he is, to be honest with you, because, I mean, ordinary people, you know, the people sort of like, you know, the delivery drivers, running supermarkets, driving public transport, refuse collectors, they've all got to go back to work.
Yeah.
And if the civil service was operating efficiently by working from home, it wouldn't be that bad. But the DVLA, the wait you've got to get driving licences and HGV licences, which are very important. The passport
But that should be the standard by which we judge this, not the fact that they're working from home. Because you're sort of making an assumption, aren't you, that they're just lazy. They're working at home, they're sort of...
But they're not... They don't seem to be as efficient. And I think it's better for younger workers as well to actually be able to...
have that environment.
To learn from...
I sort of agree with that, though. Lee's been in touch. Morning, Lee, who says a positive from the pandemic has been working from home. It's become obvious so many of us can work at home. The commute robs us of time with our loved ones and adds to our carbon footprint.
True.
Working from home has been a real blessing for so many.
I think for some it absolutely has, but I think when you have got a shortage of HGV drivers, you've got people whose passports are held up in an endless system, there is obviously something that needs sorting out here.
I'm working from home, actually. I'm doing my radio show from home, and I'm absolutely loving it. I don't have to travel anywhere, and I think you get very much in the habit of it. You know, you get to like it. But these people are supposed to be showing us an example, I guess. But, of course, you know, for example, with radio, I think more and more people will be doing shows from home, and it's so much cheaper. You don't have to have a building, you don't have to have offices, and there must be lots of other businesses working in the same way.
Have you had to create a little studio for yourself?
Well, this all happened during lockdown, and they launched a station for boomers, you know, people like me, and you're nearly there. And they said, would you like to be part of it? You'd be broadcasting from home. So I said, well, I don't have a home studio. So they said, well, we'll give you one. So they gave me a microphone and headphones. All the music is on a computer, and I've got a little room upstairs that I broadcast from. I have the windows open. I can hear the birds chirping away in the background.
And I think that's a good thing. Lovely. It has to be a plus, doesn't
That's lovely, but in the meantime, I mean, civil servants are working from home. The Department of Agriculture, Environment, Rural Affairs in Northern Ireland, they're spending £928 per head on civil servants working from home to set them up with an office at home.
But that's still probably cheaper than running a big office building.
They've still got the big office building.
And that's the decision.
Well.
That's the decision that needs to be made. You can't have both, can you?
No.
David, we're almost out of time. Can we just talk about the Sunday Times and Libido?
Well, I was thinking very much, and very much in mind with this when I saw this headline. Which says libido-boosting tablets help women get in the mood after lockdown.
Stephen and I are just making our excuses and going right now. Come on,
Dawn's advised me against this. She said, you're sitting next to Anne. Be very careful. This was all started by Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, no!
Yes. Who launched a range of libido-enhancing herbal pills, which were designed to support, female desire. She says, we're not afraid to say we want to shift our sex drive into gear. Now, Anne, you can get...
David, be so careful.
If you go to Selfridges, you can find a bottle of Help Hair and Libido. I mean, your hair looks wonderful. But help your libido as well. And by the way, only 30 quid. It's a bargain, isn't it?
It's a cheap night out, isn't it?
If I were you, I would get a year's supply. But Harrods have a, if you're going up market a little, Harrods have a libido enhancer that will cost you 240 quid. Go on, go for it. Go for it.
I don't need a libido. Frankly, it's what's in it? What's in it? You looked up what's in it.
I did look what...
if you delve into the article,
it will
tell you what's in it.
It's turmeric.
Yeah, turmeric's very good for you.
Fenugreek, pine bark from France, green tea, broccoli, kale, zinc and magnesium.
Yeah.
Well, I could just do that by making a soup.
I'm just going to have
sexy soup.
I'm just going to have a bottle of champagne instead. Thank you very much. It's got to do the trick more.
I was surprised to find that the population. Expansion that we expected during lockdown didn't actually happen. And in fact, there weren't more children being conceived. So obviously this is very much needed.
Stop looking at Anne like that, honestly.
Yeah, I'm very worried. I think we should move on. Yes. I've done my bit. I've done my bit.
I've done your bit, yeah.
You've got a cheeky glint.
He has got a very
I'm not going to be back, am I?
Oh, right, we are leaving it there. David
for those of you listening on the radio, David has a twinkle in his eyes.
Oh, he really does.
Yeah.
He does.
And a spring in his step.
Life and the old dog yet.
Oh, quite right, too. It is 7:47. Let's bring you up to date with the headlines. And it's pretty serious stuff, as always, because it's Ukraine, where President Zelensky is hoping to secure more powerful defence weapons from the US, where they meet him, top officials do in Kiev today. Russia has resumed attacks on the final stronghold in the city of Mariupol as well. Footage from the Ukrainian Nationalist Battalion, known as Azov, appears to show 1,000 women and children sheltering with troops in the underground bunkers of a steel plant.
The Home Secretary has criticised the BBC for its coverage of the government's new immigration deal with Rwanda. Talking to The Telegraph, Priti Patel accused journalists there of exhibiting an undercurrent of xenophobia while reporting on the plans. The Home Office insists it will save lives by deterring migrants crossing the channel in small boats.
France will vote on its new president today. The polls opened at 7 o'clock our time this morning. The country will decide on whether pro-European Union President Emmanuel Macron keeps his job or whether he'll be unseated by the far-right candidate Marine Le Pen.
And Tyson Fury has beaten Dillian Whyte at Wembley Stadium to retain his WBC heavyweight world title in front of a 94,000 crowd. 6'9" Fury caught his opponent on the chin, with the ref calling time on the 6th round. The champion then called himself a legend, but insists it's now time to retire.
We're still recovering from David Hamilton.
Yes, absolutely.
It was funny, though. Oh,
wonderful.
Dear.
There's lots to talk about, and there's more laughs, I think, coming up.
Yeah, it cheers us up, actually, doesn't it? It's nice. But let's turn our attention to royal news, and the second leg of the royal tour by Prince Edward and Sophie Wessex is well underway in the Caribbean.
Yeah, onlookers have flocked to see the couple as they visit St Vincent and the Grenadines as part of the Jubilee tour.
Meanwhile, back home, Prince William prepares to celebrate his 40th.
Can you believe it?
This June.
I
Wow.
know. That's amazing, isn't it? The idea of him being 40. We're pleased to be joined by royal and entertainment reporter for the Sunday Mirror, Sarah Robertson, and, of course, Stephanie Tecchi, our very own.
Good morning.
Is there too. Yes, there's an awful lot of royal news today, isn't there? Where shall we start?
Yeah, I mean, with this Caribbean tour, what do you make of all of that?
Sarah.
Coming to me, Stephen?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, I wasn't sure. Yes, it's an interesting one this week because we saw Edward and Sophie. I mean, it seems to be going very well, but they did have to lose one segment of it, was their trip to Grenada. They were told not to come, so that was cut short. And I believe the reason for that being was because they weren't actually going to be spending that long in Grenada. So the Grenadians felt, or the Grenadian government, shall I say, felt that it really wasn't enough time. You know, if they were only going to come for a few hours, they weren't going to see enough of the island So it felt almost pointless and redundant for Sophie and Edward to come there. So that part of the tour was cut short. But the rest of the tour has been going really well. Sophie yesterday had a bit of a disaster when she went to the Botanical Gardens because the local bird in St Vincent actually swooped down on her head and nearly knocked her sunglasses off. So they'd come to show her this local bird, and then she actually had a one-on-one interaction with it when she arrived there. So that was quite funny. But yeah, I mean, they seem to be doing well over there. I mean, she looks lovely in that beautiful red frock that she's wearing. And the rest of the tour is a sort of quieter tour, shall we say, than the one that William and Kate went through when they were visiting the Caribbean last month.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. I wonder what you thought, Stephanie, is whether there are some questions in today's papers saying, is this sort of coverage, is this sort of tour really very 2022? It's very old-fashioned. It's sort of the British monarchy visiting the islands and getting to know the local people and having photographs taken with everybody being jolly.
Still be ruffling a few feathers, because actually there were some campaigners there who were kind of still bringing up this old issue of colonialism and saying that it's still a bit distasteful for royals to be making such trips to the Caribbean. But as well, we are in 2022, and I don't think it's fair to say royals should not be making these visits, and it's also not fair to say that they should still be pinned to the past of slavery, because it wasn't them personally. But what we're finding in the Caribbean now is a lot of them are starting to say they want some pay for either slavery, or they want the royal family to actually speak up about it and not just sweep it under the carpet and make it look like it's just everything's OK, because clearly it still ruffles some feathers for locals.
Yes, and Sarah, apparently the choice of those sort of photographs as well, there are some complaints because they did go down the road and there were protesters, but all the British press are choosing to just give out sunny, lovely pictures of the Duke and Duchess meeting the locals.
Well, I think, look, you know, these countries are part of the Commonwealth. They've chosen to be part of the Commonwealth. The Queen is the head of the Commonwealth. You know, so for that reason, you know, these countries have chosen to be in that. And it's like anything, you are going to get some anti-monarchists. And I don't think it, you know, to keep going back to, are these photographs suitable? Are they not? Look, you know, they've been invited, these countries have invited them to go on a tour, you know, they're fulfilling their obligations, you know, with the Commonwealth, and that's what they're doing. And of course, you're going to have protesters. We have protesters here about, you know, the monarchy who say that we should be a republic. I mean, this is just, I just feel it's stirring, really. It's stirring the pot by, shall we say, anti-monarchists, you know, and anti-royalists who just want any excuse to attack the royal family. So they're taking these pot shots, you know, when the royals are going on these tours.
Well, talking of stirring up the pot a little bit, there's been a poll, it's in the Sunday Express, I think, looking at the Platinum Jubilee and should Harry and Meghan be there?
110% they should be there. Come on, Prince Harry is the Queen's grandson, and must I say, her favourite grandson as well, grandchild. Yeah, it's always been reported that she has a thing for Harry, and if she's not there, it will be the most biggest sense of disrespect on Harry and Meghan's part towards the Queen. But also, they're still part of the royal family. Just because they're not working members of the royal family, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be included in such a joyous occasion. If they don't come, it's going to be a problem. If they do come, it's still going to be a scandal or something about it.
The poll in the Daily Express, or the Sunday Express, however, 74% of people think they should not come. 74%. Sarah, what do you think of that? And they also say inside as well that the Queen is going to invite them to be on the balcony. She is going to actually extend an invitation. What do we think?
Well, she has done that. You know, Harry did say last week that, you know, he was going to try and be there. But we've seen this recent poll, as you've just said there, Anne, 74% of Britons do not want them there. Harry has blown his public image with the people of the United Kingdom. This week, you know, that explosive interview he gave to NBC with those outrageous comments saying that, you know, he wanted the Queen to be protected. Protected from what? you know, is absolutely ludicrous. And then saying that, you know, he wanted to make sure she had the right people around her. Well, he's not been here for 2 years, so what does he know? He went off, didn't he, to America, left her high and dry. So I just think, you know, the British people, you know, they don't suffer fools gladly, and they think Harry and Meghan have made absolute fools of them. So no, they don't want to see them lording it up and flouncing back in and you know, being on the balcony with all the pomp and ceremony, when actually they've not done anything to deserve to be on there for the last 2 years. They really
But more than anything, he has every right to have that opinion, to say if he feels his grandma should be protected. He can have that opinion, and there's lots of reasons why he feels like that. Prince Andrew coming to the Jubilee, obviously that's going to cause controversy as well. If we were to block people out, there will be hardly anybody standing on that balcony just because of what they do. But more than anything, for the 74% people who've said that, who doesn't have problems in their families? Beyond them being royals, they are a family, and a family unit needs to stay together regardless of what's happened.
Yeah, I actually think they should be thinking of the Queen.
Yeah.
And she will be thinking, maybe it's the last time I'll have all my family together on the balcony, and I feel fit and healthy enough to be able to stand on the balcony and wave. And she'll want them around her, won't she? Yeah.
Oh, well, look, always fascinating to get your views. It's quite nice when they're a little bit different because it makes it all a bit more exciting. Sarah, Stephanie, Sarah, thank you. Stephanie, we'll catch up with you a little bit later on. We've just got a few seconds to tell you that I want to say hello to Paul in Worthing. Good morning, because he's up nice and early. He's doing the Worthing half marathon this morning.
Good on you.
With Danny. 8:30 it starts. You've got 30 minutes. Give us a shout if you can. Loving the show and the chemistry
between all of us, I think. There's been a lot of chemistry on the programme today.
Oh, sizzling. Go on, do that again.
Sizzling chemistry.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Look, do stay with us. We've got lots more still to come for you, so don't go anywhere.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The war in Ukraine stretches into its third month with no end in sight.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock on Sunday, April the 24th. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
We're live across the whole of the UK. We're on your TV, we're on your radio, and we're online.
So coming up this morning, There's no Orthodox Easter truce in Ukraine as the war now enters its third month. But as Russian forces regroup in the east, can Ukraine hold them back? We'll bring you the latest.
Voters in France will decide today about their country's fate. Will they give centrist Emmanuel Macron 5 more years or replace him with Marine Le Pen? We're in Paris all morning for you.
Tyson Fury announces he's thinking of retiring after retaining the WBC heavyweight title with a stunning knockout of Dillian Whyte. We'll speak to Stephen Robinson about the punch heard around the world. That's what they say.
Oh, that sounds dramatic,
Punch
doesn't it?
heard around the world.
Well, it was quite dramatic. Yeah, I tell you what, boxers. I wouldn't want that for a job. I'd like the money, but can you imagine?
I think they earn it when they really earn it, don't they?
Yeah. No good for the likes of me.
You wonder for their health as well, their long-term health too.
Yeah. Anyway, look, anything you want to talk about, loads of emails. You send thousands. It's wonderful to hear from you. So anything you want to discuss, gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet us at gbnews.
So, hopes for a truce in Ukraine to celebrate today is their Easter Sunday. It's the Orthodox Church. Well, those hopes have faded as talks between Moscow and Kiev have apparently stalled.
Well, it is 2 months today since Vladimir Putin ordered his troops to invade his neighbouring country.
At a press conference, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he's not afraid to meet Putin if it leads to a peace deal.
Well, he also said the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, will head to Kiev today. Now, if that happens, it's going to be the first time a US official has been to Ukraine since the war began.
Mark Weller joins us now. He's a professor of international law at the University of Cambridge and former senior United Nations mediation expert. My goodness, how would you mediate this one, Mark? Good morning.
Good morning. Well, there was some hope. On the 28th of April, the parties met 28th of March, the parties met in Istanbul. There was kind of an outline deal emerging, but then we had the dreadful discoveries of the war crimes committed on occupied territory. We had a sense that Russia wasn't really offering very much in response. The Ukrainians had been fairly flexible. They had offered potentially permanent neutrality, which is quite a big step, and a number of other items, but Russia hasn't really responded, and instead they refocused their campaign on really just trying to capture territory. Luhansk and Donetsk, Mr. Lavrov, the foreign minister of the Russians, has announced they are going to occupy the totality of those territories. And then a Russian general added that they want yet more. They want to connect Crimea through a land corridor and possibly even cut off all of the Ukraine from the sea by going along the coast as far as Moldova. And that suggests that the next conflict is already brewing, because Moldova is supposedly a neutral state, militarily extraordinarily weak, and the Russians already hold a huge stretch of land on the western border with Ukraine, Transnistria, which they can easily, as it were, formally invade by just augmenting their forces and add more. That would really drag us very much more closely to a broader European war.
We always talk about the possibility of peace talks. As you say, some have actually happened. President Zelensky is saying he would meet President Putin if it would change anything. I mean, from what you're saying, it seems it's all totally and utterly pointless, because whatever Ukraine puts on the table, Putin doesn't actually want it.
It's never pointless. You always have to try. You saw that even the UN Secretary General, who kind of priced himself out of the market by condemning all of this as an aggression very early on, he is traveling to Moscow, to Ukraine. And it's not really possible to guess what in the end is in the mind of Mr. Putin. If it had been the case that he just wants to capture these two territories, Luhansk and Donetsk, and maybe link up to Crimea, which he already has occupied since 2014, I think there would have been quite some options one could have offered, where Ukraine would have retained its title to these territories, but in a face-saving way. It would have kind of looked as if Putin could declare victory. And these options are still available, and Zelensky keeps saying he's ready to negotiate, which does them credit under this great pressure to constantly offer negotiations. That is a good thing. And we just have to wait for a while, I fear, until the military operations have played themselves out. The Russians will have to realize that even if they win what they will win, NATO will continue strengthening Ukraine. Ukraine might conclude a ceasefire for a while, but I'm pretty sure it will reopen the conflict when it has rebuilt its armed forces very powerfully. And while Ukraine will gain in strength, Russia will be exposed to a drain on their forces and a never-ending conflict. So it would be much wiser to consider this in advance and to settle for what face-saving deal they can, which actually does satisfy what Putin set out to do, which was to protect and preserve the people of Luhansk and Donetsk, where they were never under threat, but he can claim he has liberated them, and to give some greater access to Crimea, access to fresh water, to transport, and so forth. The Ukraine is willing to declare itself permanently neutral, so more or less he could claim to have achieved a lot if he stops now. But if he goes on, I think you're right. The Ukrainians will take what they've offered off the table, and they should.
Meanwhile, much will be made of the trip by the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who's going to go to Kiev and meet President Zelensky, but he's going to Russia first, apparently, to meet Putin. What do you make of that?
I wasn't aware that he's going to Russia first. I'd heard that the UN Secretary General is going, and then coming to Kiev, and Mr. Zelensky has strongly opposed that. I haven't quite understood the opposition to it, because if Zelensky does still favor negotiations, it can only be good if the UN Secretary General has heard from the horse's mouth what the Russians have in mind, and if there's, after all, some sort of avenue for negotiations. I couldn't imagine that Mr. Blinken would go to Russia first, but maybe you have heard more than I have.
In fact, I think I got that wrong. It's the
it's
not
the UN
Antony
Secretary
Blinken,
General.
It's the UN Secretary General who's going. Well, we'll have to leave it there anyway. Such a lot is going on. But Mark, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Fascinating stuff, isn't it? Loads of you have got in touch this morning. Some serious stuff. Partygate, the dreaded P word. Philip says a lot of speculation regarding who could replace Boris. Why is Jacob Rees-Mogg never mentioned? He's a perfect candidate. Boring, family man, no scandal, extremely well-educated, quick-wit, and looks like Harry Potter's father. An ideal replacement. He's not a man of the people, though, is he? He's a very clever man.
Yes.
But I think don't you need someone who's going to connect, especially with those red wall seats, as they call them.
Some people don't take exception at all, though, to the not being a man of the people. He's another wealthy Tory, and a lot of people would say he's out of touch with ordinary people. Isn't he? I don't know. A lot of people don't see. I find that makes my sort of hackles rise on the back of my neck a bit, thinking we really need leaders who understand us. But maybe I'm wrong, because I know a lot of people don't feel the same way.
Tracy says, I've just voted for the best duo on the Trick Awards website. You both gel brilliantly.
Gel?
The only problem is you're not on every morning. Keep up the good work.
Please.
7 days a week, can you imagine?
No.
If you would like to vote, trick.org.uk.
Steve says, David Hamilton, what a breath of fresh air. Cheered me right up amongst all the bad news.
Yeah, and Heather says, morning, lovely people. You made me laugh so much. I had tears of laughter. He was pushing the boundaries.
He was pushing it. And we've been talking actually throughout the morning, and we'd love to hear more about the sort of words you make up at home. We started off talking about dyslexia, which is very serious, but then said maybe we've all got a touch of it sometimes, because when you can't think of the right word, you sort of make one up. And then it sticks, doesn't it, in your family? Tony in Norwich says, my dog Cassie, or Casbom, woofulates when chasing squirrels, so much that she forgets her flip. Also, does anyone remember Officer Crabtree, the policeman in Allo Allo?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
He made up French words, didn't he?
Yeah, he was trying to speak French and it all went horribly wrong. But very good, yeah.
But
Woofulates.
I like that.
Woofulates.
I've got a dog who woofulates. She doesn't just woof, and she doesn't just bark. She's having her say. She woofulates. I like that word.
Yeah,
nice.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Interesting one from Sheila, who's in Penzance. Morning to you, Sheila. She always enjoys the programme, which is very nice to know. One interesting fact she's just read about Tyson Fury. He was born 3 months prematurely and weighed only 1 pound.
No. That's amazing.
1 pound. Now look at him, 6'9".
My goodness, he made up for a dodgy start, didn't he?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? His parents must have been so worried that that baby was not going to survive. Yeah. And what does he become? 6'9" champion of the world.
I was premature.
Were you?
My mum was running for a bus and fell over.
No, really?
Yeah, yes. I don't know. It wasn't 3 months premature.
See, and look what you've turned.
4 or 5 weeks, maybe, something like that.
I don't know what point that makes, but you know.
Yeah, so look at me now.
How well
I'm
you've
6 foot.
Yeah.
So there you go, yes.
Yeah, you are, aren't you? You're very tall. Okay.
I've got some advantages. Keep your thoughts coming through. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Now it's a big day in France because polling stations are open. Voters today are going to choose their next president. Our reporter Paul Hawkins is in Paris with the latest on France's big day. Hello there, Paul. Where are you exactly now?
I am, Anne. Morning to you, morning to Stephen. We're in the 14th district of Paris. We're in an intermediary school, L'École Intermédiaire, which is a school for children aged 2 to 6. It is a polling station, just the same as we go to vote in some schools in a general election in the UK to cast our vote there. So in the past hour, we've been told by an election official here that 124 people have voted. That is 10% of the people in this district. They come in through the playground, they then enter this gym, this sports hall, and then just there they're given 2 envelopes. One says, or 2 pieces of paper. One says Le Pen, one says Macron, and then they choose which they want, and then they put it in the envelope, and then they pass it to the gentleman over there, and he says "à voter," and then which basically says to the lady, "I've cast my vote," and then she ticks her, they then sign the register, the French register, and that's it. They've cast their vote, they've exercised their democratic right. It is a big day for France. It is a choice between Emmanuel Macron, the incumbent, the current sitting president, bidding to become the first president to be re-elected for 20 years, or Marine Le Pen, who's from the National Rally.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, Paul, that, I mean, this has been, in terms of the polls, I mean, we're talking about the potential of a 10% gap, maybe, something like that, but still a lot of the experts seem to think it could come out quite a bit tighter.
Yeah, and key to that, Stephen, will be voter turnout. I mean, you guys were talking about it yesterday. 72% is expected to be the turnout, which by British standards would be high. By French standards, they do love to go and vote in France. That would be quite low. So voter turnout is going to be key. We spoke to 2 people yesterday. One said they were going to abstain, they were going to spoil their ballot. Someone else said, well, I'm going to reluctantly vote for Macron. I don't really want to, but I'm going to have to because I don't like Marine Le Pen. So a lot of people are expected to stay away from the polls. Remember that in the first round of this election, right, more than half the electorate voted for the far left or the far right. They didn't vote for Emmanuel Macron. So now they're left with choosing between Macron and what is said to be a far-right candidate. So voter turnout is going to be key in deciding how big the margin of victory is for Macron. Indeed, if he does win. I mean, if he didn't win, it would be absolutely enormous for France and Europe if Marine Le Pen was to win. But we'll find out around 8 o'clock this evening when the polls close. Emmanuel Macron's team are setting up underneath the Eiffel Tower. Marine Le Pen's team are setting up in one of Paris's 2 big city parks to the west of the city. So we'll find out later this evening after 8 o'clock. There'll be a snap exit poll, just as there is in the general election in the UK. We'll then find out whether Emmanuel Macron is going to get another 5 years or whether it's going to be a Marine Le Pen presidency.
We shall see. Paul, thanks very much.
It's going to be a long day for you, isn't it? Shall we find out a bit more then from Frank Furedi, sociologist, author and free speech campaigner. A very good morning to you. Hello. Are you watching these elections with excitement?
I am very excited because this is the first time I've seen an election where the decisive element is who's going to vote, how many people are going to show up. And also, very importantly, this is the first time I've seen an election where people will be voting against the candidates because nobody likes, or most people don't like, either Macron or Le Pen. And And it's a kind of weird situation where all the usual parties have disappeared in the last 4 or 5 years. Imagine going to an election in Britain where the Tories and the Labour Party are no longer serious players. You have all these other individuals or marginal parties vying to get elected and run the country. So it is a very interesting unfolding situation where in the end, nobody knows the result exactly for a very simple reason that we don't know what people will do at the very last minute. I was talking to people in Pas-de-Calais last week, and they were telling me that as far as they're concerned, they're going to decide at the very last minute. Some people will literally go to the polling poll, and as they're just about to make a choice as to which paper they will pick up, the light bulb will flash, and they will say, okay, I'll go for Macron or I'll go for Le Pen. That's a very, very exciting election as far as I'm concerned.
As far as that goes, is there a precedent for that? If so many people are undecided, don't they know? Isn't there a tendency for people to sort of say better the devil they know under those circumstances?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a question of voting for the least evil, and the French people very often sort of had this predicament where they were, in the end, when it came to the presidential election, they were basically voting in a negative sort of manner. But this time, I think the situation is a bit more different because the usual parties, the big parties of the Socialist Party or the Republican Party that has been at the mainstream of French political life have more or less disappeared in the last few years. So you're left with a situation where what matters now is the individuals rather than the political parties. And it seems to me that that creates a new political landscape. And the other thing that we have to bear in mind is that no matter what the final outcome, no matter what the percentage by which Macron will win, Le Pen has more or less won because she has established a presence, a formidable presence in French political life that nobody expected. And the question that people are asking is what's going to happen after the election? What will happen to the assembly in terms of members of parliament? Where are they going to come from? Because neither Macron or Le Pen have got a serious political machine behind them.
Yeah, it's interesting, as you say, Marine Le Pen has definitely made her mark, hasn't she, even if she loses this election. But it will be the third time, I think, that she would have lost. So surely there won't be much point in her hanging around any longer. She ought to go and do something else.
Well, you know, from your point of view and from my point of view, she looks like a serial loser. But actually, when you look at it closer, she has built up a momentum. And although she sort of hasn't managed to win anything serious other than being the member of the assembly, she has somehow captured the imagination of a significant section of society. We have to remember that France is deeply divided between Paris and the big urban centers and the rest of society. It's a bit like in England, where you have the Red Wall and you got London. That's more or less been replicated, and the affection for Le Pen is quite evident in many of the areas outside of Paris, the small towns, the rural areas. There, in that part of France, Le Pen is actually Queen Le Pen rather than just simply a politician.
Oh, it's interesting, isn't it? Frank Furedi, really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much indeed, and we shall watch those. Well, we were talking earlier on. David Shazam was saying we pretty much should have a clear idea
by about 7 o'clock, as soon as the polls shut. Yeah, because they'll have been counting all the time.
Interesting, isn't it? Well, stay with us. We've got plenty more to come for you, including Cabinet Minister Jacob Rees-Mogg under fire, well, by some, for leaving what you may call a passive-aggressive note on the desks of civil servants working from home. We'll tell you more in a minute.
Looking ahead to today's weather then, and the UK is looking largely dry for many, with the warmest weather across western parts of the country. Taking a look at the details of where you live.
And the southwest, for many, it's going to be dry and sunny this afternoon. The west of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, a bit cloudy with a risk of rain.
Further east, and we may see the odd shower, but for many it'll be dry, feeling cooler along the coast thanks to the breeze.
Across into Wales, then, we'll see plenty of sunshine throughout the day. The warmest weather will be in the west, with highs reaching the high teens.
The Midlands, however, could see a few showers develop during Sunday, especially towards the east. The showers, though, will be mainly light and fleeting, allowing the sunshine to quickly return.
Let's head north, and for many in northern England it's going to be dry and sunny. However, low cloud may linger across some eastern coasts. Where it does so, it is going to be a little bit chilly.
Low cloud may also affect parts of northeastern Scotland today, but elsewhere should see a dry day with sunny spells. In the sunshine, temperatures may climb to about 16 if you're lucky.
The sunshine is also going to be plentiful across Northern Ireland. Very little cloud around. The northeasterly wind, however, will keep some coastal areas a little bit on the cool side.
So there you are, a few showers continuing this afternoon before easing this evening, leaving many parts dry with clear spells. And that is your weather for today.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It is 8:23, morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. We are online, we're on the radio, and we're on your TV.
Now, the Cabinet Minister, Jacob Rees-Mogg, is under fire for leaving a note for civil servants saying, "Sorry you were out when I visited." Well, the union, it says the note is crass and insulting and undermines civil service leadership. Basically, it's all about the fact that they're working from home, and he's making the point that they would be very welcome back at their desks.
Yes, let's talk to Heather Scales, who's Managing Director of Heartbeat HR. Good morning to you. What do you make of all of this? Do you think people should, if the boss is in effect saying, "I want you back in the office," should they be there?
I think the difficulty is that in people's contracts of employment, it will state where their place of work is. Unfortunately, or fortunately for some, with COVID, it's changed the way that we look at work. So individuals have got used to working from home. So I certainly don't think it's fair or right to place notes on walls to ask people to return to the office.
I mean, there's clearly an indication there that he thinks they should already be back. I mean, the government said, hasn't it, that people should be back, really. They want the civil servants back.
Yeah, but what we must remember is that our employees are our biggest assets, and what we want is a motivated team. Therefore, there's obviously a mismatch at the moment in terms of communication. So how was that? How did they communicate the return to work? And how was it received? Have they checked that? Have they carried out a survey? I think what's happened is they've said, please return. And there are elements of the workforce that are probably struggling to return. So they're not really thinking about their mental health issues.
And I was going to say, it's not just mental health either, is it? It's the fact that it is cheaper for them. It's easier as well because there's no commute involved. What's wrong with actually seeing the benefits of working from home if the job can still be done?
Totally. I mean, I recognise there are a percentage of companies that can't work from home, but we've seen through the pandemic that it works. And you're right. You know, we save 2 hours a day in terms of travel. In my experience, what I've seen is actually people are working longer because they're at their desk, their workstation, sooner than they would be if they were travelling into London. So for me, it's a positive thing.
It's interesting, talk about mental health. I know there's one I just caught it in a newspaper before, one council saying people should be allowed to work from home, you know, if they feel that they would have mental problems heading back to work. And yet we're constantly told isolation is a big problem for mental health. So wouldn't actually people be better off back in the office with colleagues, communicating, having that work social life?
Yeah, you're right. And I think there's a balance here. And that's why hybrid working, you know, part in the office and part working from home is the way to go. So you get the best of both worlds. And it helps with the work-life balance.
And as you said, as we were saying earlier, so the only problem I've found is that a lot of people getting in touch about this have said that if you are working from home too much, you're bringing up another generation of workers who will never actually work in an office, and that's a skill that's necessary, isn't it?
It definitely is, but again, that's why this sort of half and half in the office and half at home really works. So you can go into the office, you have that one-to-one physical time with people, you're learning from leadership, you're doing all the things that you need to do and used to do, but equally, the other half of the week, you're at home and you're able to focus. A lot of the feedback I get is, oh, crumbs, you know, I work in an open plan and sometimes I can't focus on my job. So they have that, what I'd call quiet focus time, which, again, is a positive thing. And I think a positive thing for businesses as well.
Yeah, I was going to say water cooler moments, though, where lots of people meet their other half as well. You don't want to get rid of it entirely, but you want to blend it.
Yeah. So this is where, again, that hybrid mix really works. And I would say 90% of my clients have moved to that hybrid way of working or actually gone to remote working. You know, as you've mentioned before about the cost of office space, you know, that's a big consideration. People have changed the way that they work. And I think, you know, perhaps there are other areas, other businesses that need to start to focus and say, do we really need people 100% of the time in the office? And potentially we don't, for those people that can obviously do their role remotely.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah,
Heather, thank you very much indeed. It's good to talk to you this morning. I'm really not sure.
I think the blended idea is best.
Blended is all right, but then if you are blended, I can understand. And I'm someone who I would describe as naturally lazy, I think. And if
you're more likely to be lazy at home?
I'd be lazy at home, but also I would then really resent having to go into the office on a hybrid day.
Yes, I see what you mean. But you did a lot of broadcasting from your home during the pandemic. I did
6 months from home, and it was great to start off with because it's a long drive. I do a couple of hours each way in the car, and it was so I could get up later. As soon as the show was done, I was done. That was it.
Yeah,
great.
Brilliant.
It didn't feel right.
Oh, it looked all right.
It looked all right, but it didn't feel right. And I tell you what, it was little things like when the UU say, "Oh, thanks for watching us," and then unplugged and your sound goes and everything. Yeah. It's gone, and I'm just sat there at the dining table.
Yes, so there's no wind down with other people.
Just off. I'm just sat there, and it was just weird. And in the end, I was glad to get back.
Gosh.
Which is, you know. So it's odd, and coming in here and seeing everyone here, and the sort of our chit chats in the morning.
But isn't
and all
that just the nature of our job? Is that you effectively need a wind down afterwards with other people? You talk about how it went and all the rest of it.
I think a lot of
people. Do you do that in other jobs?
I think they put these water cooler over lunch at the end of the work when they're all walking home to the tube or the bus or getting in their cars, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah, but the commute.
It's the commute.
Hate commuting.
But, no, it's just interesting. Well, I'd love to know what you think. Loads of people have got in touch on this, actually, but they're all very anti-working from home. Sean in Bridlington says working from home is a cancer eating away at the UK economy. Roger says if your employer wants you at your desk, it's at your desk it is. That I agree with, actually.
If your boss says yes, then it's your choice. You know, if you don't want to, then you have to look for another job. But surely, if you free up office space, that means you could actually free up office buildings in some cases and turn them into houses.
Yes.
And we need homes.
You could do that, but also what about all the local economies that depend on the passing traffic, all the sandwich bars and the restaurants and the coffee shops, and because all that's...
But the way we live and the way we work has to evolve. It's not always going to stay the same. And I think it just annoyed me when the government turned around at the minute they thought the pandemic was over and said, right, everybody back in the office. And I thought, hang on a minute, do we really want... Or couldn't we just use this moment to rethink?
Yeah, interesting. We've been talking about words this morning.
Yes.
Val's been in touch. Morning, Val. She says, my mum, Jean Hibbard, who lives in Sheffield, gave us a lovely word when we were children, lily-lows. It means pretty twinkly lights. I still use it today and I'm in my 60s.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I mean. When you make up a word like that and everybody in the family starts to use it, you never forget it, do you? No. It stays in the whole family. I like lily-lows. I think they're nice.
You see, we're almost a bit against making up words, aren't we? So it's not seen as a done thing, but a lot of the words we use now were ones that Shakespeare invented.
Yeah. And also, when you interview, as we often do every year, you interview somebody from the Oxford English Dictionary or something, and they talk about what the new words are this year. And so they say that language has to evolve. It cannot stay the same. And these new words that people make up can stick sometimes, and you suddenly find yourself using them. I mean, I remember at one point years ago asking somebody what Brexit meant because I hadn't heard it. And then there's Frexit, and then there's all sorts of other exits. And Megxit we use for when we talk, or the press do anyway, when they talk about Meghan and Harry moving away from royal life. They called it Megxit.
My mum and dad have got a friend who's she's a bit dyslexic, actually. Oddly enough, she's Ukrainian, but she was brought up in Yorkshire, but her parents are Ukrainian, so just to tie that into the mix. But she's a bit dyslexic, and she says things, instead of Brexit, she says Britax.
Oh!
Things like that.
So you can see how her mind is playing it the other way around.
That's quite interesting.
It is fascinating. And we've been talking a lot about dyslexia, and a lot of people have got in touch saying, thank you for talking about it, because it is a thing, and some dyslexic people have to struggle to get along. But also there's a lighter side of it in that we all play with words in this way. So if you've got a favourite word, go on, there's lots of time to get in touch. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
But we do have lots more still to come, including a return of Dawn Neeson and Diddy David Hamilton. You enjoyed it last hour. See what he's got this time.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
"8:36, this is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on TV, online and on your radio. Brace yourselves, because it's time to go through the papers with David Hamilton and Jordan Neeson.
Do I come with a health warning or
yes,
something?
I think we'll have to explain to everybody who wasn't watching or listening an hour ago that David Hamilton, you think he's Diddy and he's a legend, but he's quite dangerous, actually.
Dangerous.
I'm going to call him dangerous, David.
I was just trying to enhance your life.
He likes talking about saucy stories in the newspapers.
Caroline says lots of fun this morning with Diddy Hamilton. Mike in Blackpool said the papers with Diddy David was hilarious. There you go, you're a hit.
Well, I thought Sunday morning, let's forget all the doom and gloom
Let's
and let's
flirt
have
with
some
Diamond.
fun.
That's what you thought.
Yes. Don't say that. Mrs. Hamilton's watching.
She is.
And we're talking about flirting later, aren't we?
Oh, yes, we are, actually.
We're talking
How to flirt.
Yes, and the top 10 things that put you most off flirts.
Oh.
You know, there are people who are good at flirting and people who are really bad at it.
I'm really bad. I'm rubbish.
What do you think? What do you think the worst thing is, David?
That puts you off flirting.
Yeah,
Number one worst thing.
flirts do.
Nothing.
No!
Yeah,
That's being smart.
But if you couldn't flirt, there'd be no fun in life, would there?
No.
I mean,
No,
flirting
but
is...
some people are good at it and some people use those awful lines.
Give me an example. What would put you off somebody flirting?
Well, all right, this is a story I was going to tell later, but I have a friend who said, I've got the perfect man for you. He's absolutely gorgeous. He's rich, everything else. You know, I'll set you up. He was really... We went out for a meal... She knows what I want, you see, in a man. We went out for a meal and he spat the last course at me throughout. Oh. He just was one of those people who just spits when he talks.
Oh, no.
So I ended up sort of, trying to brush...
So you
so
met
that put me off.
Les Patterson.
Les Patterson.
He was just like Les Patterson. He was.
Did he pay for dinner?
So that did not last. It didn't last long enough to even get the bill, I don't think.
Dear.
I just sort of made an excuse and left.
Did you?
I mean, that's not really flirting, is it? That's just a bad date.
Oh, it's horrible.
But it was a blind date and it should have remained that way.
I bet you've been a tease in your days.
Well, I've been very, very happily married for a long time, Stephen. So
yes, but you won him over somehow.
Yeah, I bought him a pint, basically. It's very cheap.
It works.
We're not very good examples then, are we?
No.
We're not.
Are you a good flirt?
No.
You're quite flirtatious. He's very flirtatious.
You are very
I am quite
flirtatious,
flirtatious.
Steve.
Do you know what? Because I'm actually... Oh, God, why am I saying this on television?
I don't know. Be careful.
I'm actually not a very confident person, and I'm very shy away from work.
A lot of people who perform are. A lot of performers are actually basically shy.
I slap on a face. And so when I come into an office like this, I can flirt with anyone.
Yeah.
And it's just a bit of fun.
I tell you what...
If anyone ever took me up on it, I'd run a mile.
You do. He does. You do the little boy lost look.
Yeah, that's over there.
Yeah, that's the flirting.
He does it so well. It wins me over.
Yeah, wins them all over.
Look, he's doing it now. Look, it's like little...
Yes. All right. Well, that's what we're going to talk about later. But what were we going to talk about now?
Oh, Stone the Crow's Dawn in the Mail on Sunday.
Oh, this is a story that's actually caused more controversy than almost anything else today, which is slightly bonkers. This is a story that the Daily Mail has accused, or Mail on Sunday, has accused Labour Deputy Angela Rayner of doing a basic instinct. We can remember that famous scene of Sharon Stone where she crosses and uncrosses her legs. And the Daily Mail is saying that Angela Rayner does that in the House of Commons to distract Boris Johnson.
Please. No.
I'm not making it up. That's what they're saying. But obviously, it is quite misogynistic, isn't it? Really?
I have to say that.
And Angela has, of course, completely denied it. But you know, a source says she often jokes about it on the House of Commons terrace over a few drinks. But you know what sources are like, don't you?
Yeah.
But I mean, she has got lovely legs.
Yeah, she has.
And lovely hair. Can we say that now? I think
No,
we
I
can
don't
say
think
it about
I
another
don't
woman.
think you're even allowed to say that now. Not allowed to point out.
I can't imagine. I mean, there are some dirty tactics in politics. I cannot, in a million years, believe that is one of them.
Do you think she's trying to put him off his stroke? Sort of distract him?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he has a sort of track record, doesn't he, for being a bit of a
He's got an eye for the ladies, I think it's fair to say, isn't it?
He's got an eye for the ladies, so I think it's...
we are getting into such anti-woke or woke territory here, aren't we?
Anti-woke's always good, isn't
it? You like being anti-woke.
Really anti-woke this morning.
Now, what about snoring women?
Well, I've got, yes. I thought another one to interest Anne.
Thank you. I said, Stephen, we just go, shall we? Just listen to it.
Obviously, I'm flirting with this morning, so she doesn't approve of that. This is about wives whose snoring is as loud as a Hoover. And apparently makes as much noise as conversation, normal conversation. The average volume, you might like to know, of Britain's snorers is 60 decibels, if that means anything to you. But, and apparently women snore more than men.
Rubbish.
Right. That's controversial, isn't it?
Oh, no, they certainly snore as much as men, don't they?
Well, we do it in a more ladylike way.
No, but they don't, I think. That's the problem, isn't it?
Stop giving our secrets.
I've heard snorers in my time, and both men and women. And because when you have the whole family, I'm getting into a deep water here now. But when you have all the family staying at Christmas time, and you know, and you've got the bedrooms are all full of various people complaining about others. Yeah, they can hear them through the wall and things like that.
I think I am probably the snorer in my household. So my wife insists on separate rooms, but I think what she really wants is separate counties.
Yes.
You're a loud snorer.
Well, I'm not probably aware of it, but I think I have actually been sent to my room. Yes. Yeah. And I've sort of, you know, got used to it now, really.
Why do we snore?
I'm a snorer.
Are you?
Are you?
Ooh.
Yeah.
My dad... Oh God, I'm going to get into so much trouble.
We are,
my father says my mother is she's like a pig hunting for truffles.
God.
You just said that live on air.
No, but that's quite nice. That's gentle. That's gentle.
Could be...
Well, I don't know whether it is.
Could be even worse, actually. You could be a farter. That would really be really bad.
I don't think you're allowed to say that either.
Am I not on TV? Oh, sorry. It happens, doesn't it? You know, people fart. It's life, isn't it?
Do you know, I think there's a real danger in us being too
relaxed.
Bye-bye.
Too relaxed.
You know what?
It's a Sunday morning.
Well, I'm losing.
You've hit your 80s, David. You're just like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But I love that.
Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, we all do it.
Let's just get it out.
Well, that's...
Not literally. Not literally.
Out with it.
No wonder she puts you in a separate room, David.
Yes, exactly. That's the real reason. Maybe snoring is a euphemism she uses.
Huh?
Maybe the word snoring is a euphemism.
I think it is a euphemism. Yeah. It could both at the same time. There I go again.
I'm so sorry about this. God. Our apologies, our huge apologies if you're just trying to wake up
I love
on
it.
this lovely Sunday morning.
I love it. This is how breakfast TV should be.
It should be, absolutely.
Oh, I absolutely love it.
Oh, dear.
Let's talk... That's looking very disapproving.
I'm worried what anybody, including me, is going to say next.
I know. It's a bit concerning.
I can lower the tone of anything.
Dawn, let's upset a few people.
Oh, gosh,
this
yeah,
morning,
absolutely.
A few more people with the Sunday people. Because, I mean, this is... Rishi Sunak is a very rich man.
Yep.
You can't hold that against him, really.
No,
if
of course not.
If you've got bucketfuls of cash, why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's building himself a new swimming pool. It's going to cost £13,000 a year to heat.
Yeah, this is a Sunday People exclusive, and it's outrage over massive energy cost of Chancellor's new swimming pool. As you say, £13,000 a year to heat, and that's 6.5 times the average energy bill for a family home. So it's the politics of envy to say, oh, how dare he? It's his money. If he wants a swimming pool, that's fine.
It's not very green from a green government.
Well, quite. And it's not a good look at the moment, is it? It's not really reading the room.
But he's put in the planning applications, I think, to build this
that's right,
pool, which is why we now know about it. But I mean, why shouldn't he? Lots of rich people have swimming pools. We don't get at them. It's the fact that he is the Chancellor and we're all sort of worried about the cost of living.
But it's interesting that the people have spoken to a few people that live in his constituency and they are saying, look, it's his money. If he wants to spend it on that, let them do that. And I sort of agree, but it's like when we are all facing such an incredible cost of living increase, it's really not a good look, is it? And it's and then they also go on to mention, this is the people bearing in mind again, he also hosts regular dinners serving roast venison and red wine. I mean, it's just dropping the. It's just
I think, Dawn, that there are words that make people very angry. I think mansion is one. I think swimming pool is another, and venison is a third.
Yeah.
So these are all words that wind people up.
They're triggers, aren't they? Yeah. How's your swimming pool? You've got a swimming pool, haven't you? Yeah.
Have you?
I have got a swimming pool, yes. I have, yeah. Well, I bought a house. I'd never wanted a swimming pool, but I bought a house that had a swimming pool, and so I acquired a swimming pool. But as I have it...
invited round? Huh? Why have we never been invited round, David?
Well, I've only just met you.
Well, that doesn't
it takes time.
I don't know whether I want to. If
I want you to come round and bring the libido pills.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. We're not going back to those.
That'll make a bit of a splash.
You can turn it into a jacuzzi, David.
You went there,
Stephen.
Oh, please.
Said it.
I am being properly told off by Anne Diamonds now.
Really? The two of you together is
I know.
very
I
dangerous.
think we could have a really good night out.
Dangerous, David.
We'll have a boys' night out.
Oh, I think that could be fun. Dawn, David, we are out of time.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
Thank you. Well, I tell you what, between the two of you today, it's been a long time since I've had a smile that hurts this much.
It was nice while it lasted.
It was.
Good.
Oh, dear. Now, I don't know if you'd be smiling this morning if you were Dillian White. You'd be smiling if you're Tyson Fury, because he's about 30 million quid better off after a happy homecoming as he retained his WBC heavyweight title with a sensational six-round knockout. Even we can't get any of our words out today. Knockout over Dillian White. This is what Tyson told reporters when he was asked about his future.
Before I fought Deontay Wilder 3, I was in my house in Vegas and I said to Paris, I said, this is going to be the last fight, babe. I just don't want to do it anymore. And she said, yes, I'm happy. Let it be the last fight. And then after the fight, I said to her in the shower, I said, it's definitely the last fight. There's no more of this. And then I was happy with that decision. And I get a call from Frank saying, we can do a homecoming fight at Wembley. And I was like, I said to Paris, I said, I've got to go one more time. I've got to get the old boots out again. And then I come back for a big fight at home, and it's been amazing. I couldn't have topped it off. It's been a fairy tale few years. It's been absolutely more than I ever dreamed of as a kid and as an adult. So big thank you to everybody who's helped me in my career.
So, will he actually retire?
Yeah, will he do it?
I definitely think so. But I'm not ruling out, I will not rule out exhibitions, for sure. Get some of that Floyd Mayweather money.
There you go, never say never, I think is probably the real answer there. Steve Robertson is a former boxing world champion. He joins us now, along with Aidan McGee. Morning, both.
Morning,
Steve, let's start with you in all of this. Look, Tyson was the favourite. It was a heck of a show fight last night.
Yeah, it was a good fight. I thought it was going to go a bit longer, the fight. I thought it would have gone about later rounds, but obviously Tyson is a different level, isn't he? He's levels above Dillian White, and we called him a good shot, and that was it. So it was a good fight.
Steve, it's Aidan here. Did you think that Tyson Fury perhaps cemented his place not just among the elite of boxing, which we kind of already knew he was at that level, but just possibly among the pantheon of the very best that's ever lived?
No, I don't really think so. At the end of the day, I believe that Muhammad Ali was the best of all time, best heavyweight of all time. But Tyson Fury is not far off it. He's probably in the top 10. I feel he's in the top 10. There's a lot of great fighters out there. Larry Holmes and a lot of fighters out there who actually, I think, are better than Tyson Fury. So he's a good fighter though. This day and age, he's the best heavyweight in the world.
In terms of how things played out on the night, Steve, what did you make of the variation in his tactics? Because we saw Fury win a fight there in a way that we perhaps haven't seen him win that way before, the one-punch knockout, if you like, or stoppage.
Yeah, it was a good shot, and he caught him like he skimmed. He sort of it looked like a skim, it didn't look like a clean punch, but it was a good punch. I watched it at a different angle. It was a good shot. He caught him right in the chin, and he was out, and he didn't want to know after that.
And what's next then for Fury? I mean, he's talking about potential retirement. I said earlier on the last hour, I've covered about 3 or 4 different Fury retirement stories in the last 4 or 5 years. We learned to take it with a pinch of salt, but surely that unification contest between either Usyk or Joshua, which we think might happen at the end of July if those two get it on, do you think that will be too much for Fury to resist going forward?
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like he's gonna obviously he's not gonna retire. He's gonna fight the winner against obviously Joshua and Usyk, and that'd be the biggest fight of all. Then, so yeah, I can't see him retiring. He's saying he's gonna retire, but then all of a sudden he's gonna come out with retirement, and then the fight's gonna be on.
So it's quite one-sided, wasn't it, when Usyk fought Joshua at White Hart Lane last September? Do you see that being repeated if it happens later in the summer, possibly in Saudi Arabia, or do you think Joshua could come again?
I got a feeling Joshua could actually come again. He didn't really push him back. He didn't use his size and his weight and his advantage, his reach advantage. But I feel like Joshua probably win the rematch this time. It'd be interesting.
Do you think Joshua has it in him to beat Fury, though? Because that's eventually what he's going to have to do, isn't it? Even if he overcomes Usyk, which at the moment I wouldn't say is necessarily fait accompli. I think Usyk wins that fight, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I don't know. I just got a feeling like obviously Joshua will come on top this time. I think you win the rematch, and I think he would beat him. He probably may have a good chance of beating Tyson Fury, but it'd be an interesting fight. But Fury's a great boxer, it'd be interesting.
Just getting back to last night, what did you make of the actual occasion, the showpiece, if you like? 94,000 people at Wembley. I mean, boxing's never really seen days like this. I mean, I think back to Lewis against Bruno back in '93 in Cardiff in front of 26,000. In terms of an all-British heavyweight contest, this was the best we've seen.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was a great crowd, and it was a great fight. Well, a good fight really. I didn't think it was a great fight, but it was a great crowd. But it would have been better if he was fighting someone like Usyk or Anthony Joshua, because obviously Dillian Whyte got beat by Anthony Joshua a few years ago, and then he's come back quite well. But the future is going to be he's going to fight the winner between Usyk and Anthony Joshua. That'd be great, even better again.
So just finally then, what next for Dillian Whyte? He gets forgotten in all this because he didn't disgrace himself last night, did he?
No, he didn't. I think he's done well. I think he's still got a few more fights left in him. He's a good fighter, but it was levels, isn't it? So obviously Tyson Fury was at different levels. He's 3-4 levels above him, and he was just way too good for him. But I think Dillian Whyte could come back and maybe fight for a world title again. I can't see him winning a world title.
Listen, Steve, thanks very much indeed for joining us this morning. An epic night at Wembley in front of 94,000 people. We remain to see whether Tyson Fury can go on and achieve even more in the sport.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't.
It just shows as well, though, that boxing still gets the crowds, doesn't it?
Oh, it's more so, and probably more so, Anne, actually. I mean, it was big. You mentioned Frank Bruno earlier on. It was really big in that era, we forget, and especially when there were like 4 terrestrial channels at the time, and any boxing night on a Saturday would get probably viewers in excess of 10 million. Even on satellite now, we've moved on to that where you have to actually pay 25 quid to watch this fight, and yet people are still queuing up in their droves, as well as those who are turning up on the night in almost 100,000 last night.
Must have been mega money as well.
Exactly.
Oh, yes, indeed. OK, Aidan, thank you. Thank you. We'll catch up with you later. Owen's been in touch about this. Morning, Owen. Says, what an amazing man Tyson Fury is. We've all seen his story writ large. He struggles to conquer mental health. The soul shines out of him. When they had to square up to one another, he did what's natural to him. He smiled, extended the hand. Don't be crossing him, though. He'd tap the nappy, followed by swiftly by the hog.
What is tap the nappy a boxing term?
I don't know.
Now, yeah.
Oh, there you
How
go.
weird.
Wait,
we've been talking about making up words all day. Yeah. Robert and Molly the dog say, I have a condition called FTD, which makes me write and say words the wrong way around, or say words that don't make sense. So thank goodness for spell checking when messaging. I think this condition needs to be more known to the general public.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. Kia says, my toddler son used to say hiccalops for hiccups. And it's stuck.
That's a lovely word, hiccalops.
Hiccup sounds wrong now, hiccalops.
And then Paul says, my daughter used to say hobsitle for hospital. Lots of people actually do that, I think, don't they? Hobsitle. My wife says Norfolk for Norfolk. There you go.
Norfolk?
Norfolk.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Cost of living. Not had too many of these today, which is quite nice. I mean, sometimes I just need to break from it all. But Robert in Northern Ireland says he's just back from the petrol station. Diesel, 172 a litre. I mean, do you know, I filled my car up the other day and it cost me about £130.
Crumbs!
I could not. It's got a big tank on it, but £130. It's like you can't even do it with just a pay with a card thing now because it's above the limit.
Well, how do you do it?
You have to just put it in twice.
Oh, crumbs!
I mean, it's so depressing. Surely Boris needs to remove the green levy on fuel. The way he's standing firm with Ukraine is admirable, but the Conservative Party will be hammered at the polls unless he acts now. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but it's in a way it's quite nice to spend at least one morning not overdoing the Partygate issue as well, isn't it? Because I think we're all a bit fed up with that.
Yeah.
We would, though, like to keep the words going, please. So if we've been talking about dyslexia as a serious subject, but on the slightly lighter side, we do make up some wonderful words that stick in the household and we use them for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Let us know yours.
Hiccups is the best. I love it. Stay with us. Lots more still to come.
Looking ahead to today's weather then, and the UK is looking largely dry for many, with the warmest weather across western parts of the country. Taking a look at the details of where you live.
And the southwest, for many, it's going to be dry and sunny this afternoon. The west of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, a bit cloudy with a risk of rain.
Further east, and we may see the odd shower, but for many it'll be dry, feeling cooler along the coast thanks to the breeze.
Across into Wales, then, we'll see plenty of sunshine throughout the day. The warmest weather will be in the west, with highs reaching the high teens.
The Midlands, however, could see a few showers develop during Sunday, especially towards the east. The showers, though, will be mainly light and fleeting, allowing the sunshine to quickly return.
Let's head north, and for many in northern England, it's going to be dry and sunny. However, low cloud may linger across some eastern coasts. Where it does so, it is going to be a little bit chilly.
Low cloud may also affect parts of northeastern Scotland today, but elsewhere should see a dry day with sunny spells. In the sunshine, temperatures may climb to about 16 if you're lucky.
The sunshine is also going to be plentiful across Northern Ireland. Very little cloud around. The northeasterly wind, however, will keep some coastal areas a little bit on the cool side.
So there you are, a few showers continuing this afternoon before easing this evening, leaving many parts dry with clear spells. And that is your weather for today.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
The war in Ukraine stretches into its third month with no end in sight.
Good morning, it's 9 o'clock on Sunday, April the 24th. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
We're live across the whole of the UK on your TV and your radio, live across the world if you're online.
Coming up this morning, no Orthodox Easter truce in Ukraine as the war enters its third month. But as Russian forces regroup in the east, can Ukraine hold them back? We'll bring you the latest.
Voters in France decide today on the country's fate. Will they give centrist Emmanuel Macron 5 more years or replace him with their first far-right president, Marine Le Pen? We're live in Paris for you today.
And a bit later on, we're going to be asking, are you a bad flirt? Scientists have apparently identified the 11 most off-putting flirting tactics. We'll discuss with a relationship expert.
Take notes. You can join in any of our discussions. Particularly, we're talking about words this morning. Words that you get wrong or words that you've just made up. We've got some brilliant ones. Because we're talking about dyslexia, and this is actually the sort of the lighter side of that, when you just consider people who get words wrong because they're dyslexic shouldn't be laughed at or ridiculed or anything else, because we all make words up, and some of the best ones, please.
And actually, the one that Nadine Dorris was sort of mocked for, she said downstreaming instead of downloading.
Which makes
sense. I think it's a very sensible word, and frankly, it's probably one that's going to be used more and more.
I got laughed at years ago, 20-odd years ago, because I said about having a landline, which wasn't a thing then.
Oh.
Wasn't a thing. I think we probably used it in the newsroom back at ITN or whatever, but they said landline.
Gosh.
And I remember being really laughed at by people. And now everyone talks about it.
Yeah. So if you've got a favourite word that you get wrong, or that you've made up, or the children have made up, and it's suddenly become part of your vocabulary, we'd love to hear it.
GB Views, gbnews.uk.
Now, hopes for... Yeah, and by the way, it's Easter Sunday in Ukraine because...
it's Orthodox, isn't it?
That's right, it's Orthodox Christian. And so today is their Easter Sunday. It won't be the happy, relaxed one that they apparently traditionally always look forward to. Hopes for a truce in Ukraine to celebrate the Orthodox Easter have faded, I'm afraid, as talks between Moscow and Kiev have stalled again.
Now, today marks 2 months since Putin ordered his troops to invade his neighbouring country.
At a press conference, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he's not afraid to meet Putin if it leads to a peace deal.
Now, President Zelensky also said the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken will head to Kiev today, and if that happens, it's going to be the first time a US official has been to Ukraine since the war began. Well,
we're joined now by Dr. Peter Caddick-Adams, who you probably know by now is a NATO historian, journalist and ex-reserve officer. Hello there, a very good morning to you, Peter. It's interesting what's going on in Ukraine again. Zelensky is always offering to meet Putin, probably knowing it's never going to happen and probably wouldn't achieve anything. But he still offers. Why?
Well, of course, he has won the publicity war in terms of messaging. Moscow, Vladimir Putin and all his cronies have never done in terms of selling what they're doing to the outside world. And Vladimir Putin Vladimir Zelensky hasn't put a foot wrong so far. But he realizes that for the international community, he has always got to make the offer to try and end the war, but he's only going to do it on terms that are favorable to Ukraine. So that's why he keeps asking. And of course, every time that Moscow has made an offer, it's always been to their advantage when militarily they've got the upper hand or on ground that really doesn't work. So Belarus, which will be a hostile place. And some talks have taken place in Turkey. But again, never really with sincerity in mind, and that, I think, is felt by the rest of the world. So Zelensky has really kept the outside world on side with all his offers, and he's really played it extraordinarily well.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, it's sort of diplomacy. It looks like diplomacy to Moscow, but it's really diplomacy, I guess, to the rest of the world, is it? Because, I mean, if Antony Blinken arrives in Kiev today, we know one of the demands that's going to be made face-to-face is we need more heavy weaponry. We need lots of it, and we need it now.
I mean, this is exactly right. This is all about messaging. And the messaging that Zelensky has put out is both to his own people, stay firm, we're doing all right, but also to the outside world. And if you remember all his speeches to the United Nations, to different countries, he's personalised every one. So when he addressed the House of Commons, he quoted Winston Churchill, and he's quoted national figures in each and every way. And therefore, he's a real master at this, and perhaps we should expect no less from a former actor. Whereas Moscow's messaging just doesn't work to the outside world. But in a way, all their effort is internally to make sure that the domestic population backs Vladimir Putin. And he's very, very worried that they're not. And that there's a leakage of information as to what's really happening in the outside world, because he knows that if the domestic population turn against him, then he'll have to bring his troops back just to control his own country. It'll be a Russian revolution all over again.
And how big is the Russian military? I mean, we keep hearing different views, but you say that he'd have to bring them back to actually control things domestically. Does he have enough troops to do that?
Well, the telling statistic is that Russia, if you look at all their border guards, their internal police, their riot police, the national militia, the Russians have got more people engaged in controlling their own population in uniform with weapons than they have got in their armed forces. Russia is always about internal control, and external control comes second to that. So that's always the worry. And if they're still arresting people, if television broadcasters are still resigning, if the news still gets out, and it is all the time, then clearly Vladimir Putin is gambling on a quick solution. This 3-day war, how long ago was that? 2 months. So where the joke in Russia, of course, at the moment is where we're now approaching day 60 of the 3-day war. And time is not on their side. Time is not on their side in terms of casualties, all these generals they've been losing, in terms of money, all the sanctions, and in terms of weaponry. They must be running out.
Let's hope they're running out of patience with Vladimir Putin. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Peter. Thank you.
Loads of you getting in touch this morning, which is wonderful. Thank you. On the working from home issue, because it's made the headlines because Jacob Rees-Mogg has been round putting little notes on people's computers saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry I missed you.
Yes.
Hope I see you next time you're in the office." Yeah. So it's very passive-aggressive, but maybe he's right. Maybe he's got a point. And we talked to someone earlier on saying working from home was, she thought, a pretty good thing. Jim says, if working from home is so good, why do we still have messages mainly from the public sector, when you sort of ring up or whatever and they say, "Oh, well, we can't handle that at the moment due to COVID, it means the service isn't working properly." Yeah, fair point.
Yes. John says the civil servants are paid from the public purse. They should be at work and not in the garden at home. You see, that's what I think is a bit dangerous, is assuming that because they're working from home, they're actually sort of lazing in the garden. They should be on half pay for every day not spent in the office. That's what John says.
I think that's a bit harsh, John. But what worries me slightly is a lot of them do claim, a lot of people, they claim money for their electricity.
Yes.
And money for all these little bits of... But you get to say, well, the cost of living, or does it cost that much to power your laptop for 8 hours a day?
No, but it does mean that you've got to keep your home warm and lit if you're using it as an office. I'm not suggesting... I think maybe we should look upon working from home as a privilege. Rather than claim for things like electricity.
Audrey says, from my personal experience, the DVLA and the probate service have been a disgrace, and I had to ask for my MP to intervene.
Stan says it's beneficial to work from home if you can, even cuts down on the footprint you leave. More time for the family, more time to socialise. It's a win-win situation. Cuts down on stress. I think for some people, especially if you live on your own, might add to stress. He says it's beneficial for companies cutting back on office space and electricity. And if indeed we do it, more of it, and it does cut down on office space, I think we really do need a cohesive plan to look at offices and see whether or not...
What you do with them.
You could change them into housing, because we badly need that. Charles in Darlington, though, says, I'm easily distracted, so working from home would be no use for me.
Yeah.
Difficult.
Well, I'm a bit like that. If there was a cohesive plan, then it'd be fine. But we've got empty offices sitting there, which are still having to be paid for out of the public purse at the moment. I mean, Karen says the passport offices are an absolute disgrace. I've been trying to renew mine for weeks, but they're all working from home.
Harry and Meghan. They're in all of the newspapers today, I have to warn you. But a lot of people, because the Sunday Express has done a poll to see whether or not people think that Harry and Meghan should stay away from the Jubilee celebrations. 74% in that poll said yes, they should stay away. So they continue to be a very controversial subject. Stephen says anti-monarchists will take the high ground. Harry is a serious royal liability of his own construction.
Richard says he's left our system, so we don't want him. He should stay within his family private events, but not traditional public ones.
Linda says, I really don't want to see Harry and Meghan on the balcony. They'll only use it for their Netflix documentary. That's a point.
That is a point. That would be very bad taste, I think. Anyway, keep your thoughts coming through. GBviews at gbnews.uk.
Especially those words, please.
Oh, the words especially, yeah. They're keeping us entertained. Now, voters are casting their ballots at polling stations across France right now. We've got team coverage for you this morning. Paris-based journalist David Chazan is outside a polling station. But let's start with our very own Paul Hawkins, who's inside a polling station for us this morning. There's been concern, Paul, about the potential turnout today. How's it been where you are?
It's been very healthy, Stephen. We were told by one election official that in the first hour that this polling station, a school for sort of children aged 2 to 6, in the first hour that this opened this morning in the 14th district of Paris, around 124 people came to vote. That's 10% of the electorate in this district. So at the moment, polling is healthy. If you step outside here, just around the corner, there's another polling station. There are queues heading round the corner. So obviously it depends on the venue where the polling station is. At that venue, it's very small, so people are having to queue around the block. Here, the queue kind of snakes into the playground, but outside there isn't a queue at the moment. So people come in here, they enter through the door there, then they come along there, and then in the far corner at the end, there's two piles of paper, and one has Marine Le Pen on and one has Emmanuel Macron on. They take a piece of paper, they then take a blue envelope, and then they go into this booth here with the curtain, and then they put the piece of paper inside the blue, whoever they choose goes inside the blue envelope. They then come here, they show some identification, they can show their driving licence, their passport, their national identity card, and then they place their envelope in the transparent box there. So that's the process. The interesting thing is they don't have to pick up a name. They can just take an empty blue envelope if they want, and then put an empty blue envelope into the box, which would of course mean that they've abstained from voting. And that's the big issue in this election. Voter turnout, 72% by French voting standards. That would be low, and that is the expected turnout, because the choice is between another 5 years of Emmanuel Macron, and many people are a significant number of people are dissatisfied with Emmanuel Macron. More than half didn't vote for him in the first round of the election, and the alternative is Marine Le Pen, who some consider to be an extremist. So it's an interesting choice. The polls will remain open until 8 o'clock this evening, and that is when we will get a snap poll and find out whether we're going to get another 5 years of Emmanuel Macron or a new presidency under Marine Le Pen.
Crumbs, all that opening of envelopes for the counters, that's going to take longer, isn't it?
I think so.
We cast a vote, we just fold the paper and put it in. But if they're actually putting it in an envelope and that's got to be opened, I would have thought that really adds serious time to counting.
Probably does.
They've obviously got it worked out. So let's cross to David there. What is it looking like for you, David?
Well, you can see the polling station behind me, Anne. Someone's just going in now, and officials here have told me there's been a steady trickle so far this morning, no queues, but they were comparing it to the presidential election 5 years ago, and they said for this time of day it's pretty much normal as it was last year. But as Paul was saying, a relatively low turnout is predicted, and that could be a decisive factor in the outcome.
Yes, and as we heard from Paul there, we should know, obviously, no matter how many envelopes they've got to open, we should have everything counted, more or less, by this evening.
Yes, that's right, and they count by hand in France. It's fascinating. And what they do is they take partial results. See, some polling stations close at 7 p.m. local time, others at 8. And by 8, they've taken what they consider to be a representative sample across the country of polling stations where the vote count is almost complete, and they base their estimate on that. Now, historically, these estimates have always been accurate. The only scenario in which it may take longer to find out the name of the winner is if the result's almost too close to call, in which case it could take a few more hours. And of course, the official result will come overnight.
Fascinating stuff, isn't it? Why don't we do that, I wonder? Thank you very much, Paul and David. I wonder, why don't we count as we vote?
Don't know. We all have our little systems in place, don't we? I don't know why that's the situation.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating... I tell you what strikes me as that is what a waste of paper.
Yes.
Why can't they just write on one piece?
Yeah, and put it in it doesn't have to go into a transparent box. There must be reasons, but it's fascinating the way different countries do it.
Yes.
It's lovely to see democracy in action, though, isn't it?
It is very nice to see, in a way. It's because it does all happen. Have we got pictures from Le Touquet? Here we go. This is Le Touquet in France,
voting,
where they're
counting and
signing away, and I don't know if she's picking up her papers or depositing them, that lady there, but there it is. It is democracy in action. It's there's someone's blue envelope.
Oh, yeah.
With his... Oh, don't zoom in too much.
The camera's zooming in so much, I think we might be affronting his privacy.
Yes.
But that's what I mean. It just reminds you that when you live in a democracy, you know, your power... Your one and only power, in a way, is your vote, isn't it, at times like that? And it's good to be reminded of that, how important it is.
That's why I do think... I'm a really firm believer in exercising our vote. I've never missed a vote, apart from when it was police commissioners, which I couldn't vote for. It's always seemed a bit pointless anyway.
I don't think I've ever missed a vote, either. I've done a protest vote.
Have you?
Oh, yes. I'm not telling you how.
No.
Ooh. But yeah, no... And I think a lot of people, and that's what they were saying in the French elections, a lot of people are voting for their least worst candidate, which is very sad, I think, really. If it
is
comes
very
to that.
sad. Yes, they're not voting for a candidate; they're voting against the other one, which is bad. I mean, that's got to be bad for the next 5 years.
I've done a protest vote. I've done an idealistic, never going to get in vote.
Yeah.
And then other times you're just a bit more pragmatic.
Yeah, interesting.
Sort of depends totally on the sort of constituency you live in as well.
Yeah, but this is the other thing now. We're heading very much for voting for leaders, where it was voting for parties, and should it be just voting for your candidate, which is what it's meant to be. But anyway, let us know what you think about all of that. If you want to send us a long essay on voting politics and all that sort of thing. GBViews at gbnews.uk. But we've got lots more to come for you, including the world's first all-private crew to the International Space Station. What have they been up to? They're meant to be heading home. We'll bring you the latest.
Looking ahead to today's weather then, and the UK is looking largely dry for many, with the warmest weather across western parts of the country. Taking a look at the details of where you live.
And the southwest, for many, it's going to be dry and sunny this afternoon. The west of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, a bit cloudy with the risk of rain.
Further east, and we may see the odd shower, but for many it'll be dry, feeling cooler along the coast thanks to the breeze.
Across into Wales then, we'll see plenty of sunshine throughout the day. The warmest weather will be in the west, with highs reaching the high teens.
The Midlands, however, could see a few showers develop during Sunday, especially towards the east. The showers, though, will be mainly light and fleeting, allowing the sunshine to quickly return.
Let's head north, and for many in northern England, it's going to be dry and sunny. However, low cloud may linger across some eastern coasts. Where it does so, it is going to be a little bit chilly.
Low cloud may also affect parts of northeastern Scotland today, but elsewhere should see a dry day with sunny spells. In the sunshine, temperatures may climb to about 16 if you're lucky.
The sunshine is also going to be plentiful across Northern Ireland. Very little cloud around. The northeasterly wind, however, will keep some coastal areas a little bit on the cool side.
So there you are, a few showers continuing this afternoon before easing this evening, leaving many parts dry with clear spells. And that is your weather for today.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It is 9:22 morning, the breakfast with Stephen and Anne, live across the UK on your TV and your radio.
Now, here's something that gets us both excited because we love talking about space. The first ever all-private crew to the International Space Station are apparently stuck in space. A NASA trip to relieve them has apparently been delayed by bad weather.
It's the 4-member crew of the Axiom 1, including a former NASA astronaut who's the mission commander, and 3 Axiom customers. They're private citizens who paid 55... Is this how much it was? 55?
Yeah, because it's $55 million, isn't it?
Yeah.
£35 million or something like that it was.
Yeah, each.
A lot, anyway.
Each. Let's talk to someone who knows all about this sort of thing. Per Vemma, founding astronaut with the Virgin Galactic. Good to see you again. Really good to talk to you. Look, we're saying they're stuck in space. I don't feel very sorry for them. But is it? It's all to do with the weather, is it?
Yes, it is. It's basically there's too much wind just off the coast of Florida, and therefore it's just too risky to land. Essentially, these things happen. The good news is you can actually predict it, as opposed to trying and then having lots of trouble on re-entry. So yeah, I'm afraid they're stuck for a little bit. They're due to come down on Monday.
More bang for their buck, aren't they? Basically, I mean, they paid all that money. What's a few extra days? A bit of a bonus.
No. Absolutely. I would kind of compare it to, let's say you guys went on a work trip somewhere to your absolutely favorite destination in the world. Let's say it's the Maldives or the Caribbean or something, the best place you could ever imagine to be. You're on a work trip. You work really, really hard because I know Michael Lobos Alegria. He's a serious commander from the ex-NASA, and he works the crew very, very hard. So let's say you work super, super hard for 10 days in a row. You're supposed to come back down to Earth, and people say to you, you're welcome to stay for another week, enjoying the views of space and your favorite place, etc. I'm sure they are delighted. They're not complaining at all.
Is there any concern at all in terms of whatever supplies they've got or what have you? I mean, presumably they're pretty well stocked for this sort of situation.
Yes, I mean, there would be plenty of supply on the International Space Stations. There are currently 7 government astronauts, if you like, up there, 3 Russians, 3 Americans, and 1 European. They would have ample of food and supplies, et cetera, et cetera. It will have cost implications, though, because just for your reference, it actually costs about $2,000 a day in terms of having food per person on the International Space Stations. And in terms of supplies, you got to budget in about $100,000 a day, more or less. So it does have cost implications extending the trip by another week. But I'm sure if they're paid $55 million each, I'm sure they can afford it. So there's no doubt they'll enjoy it. But they're not going to run out of supplies anytime soon.
I'm sure there'll be lots of people watching and listening who are thinking, if you've got Russian and American astronauts on the same space station, given what's happening in Ukraine, will that affect them in any way? Or are they, to quote a silly word, but are they above all that?
Quite literally, they are above all that. And within the space community and amongst astronauts, we're all good friends. I mean, we're a little bit seeing the world from above, I should say. And my God, it would be great to send some politicians up there to have the same view. So the politics amongst people, amongst the astronauts, do not get affected by it. However, the Russian Space Agency, because of all the global tensions, have said that they will discontinue the collaboration with NASA and stuff. So formally, there'll be disengagement. At the personal level, and I'm sure the 7 guys up there, together with the 4 Axiom guys, they would have a great time, and they'll talk about space, and they'll be sitting like friends around the table. That is how astronauts work. You really see the big picture, quite literally.
I bet. Per, how much are you praying for bad weather once you're up there? And delaying your return. I mean, it must be. You must be quite jealous, actually, looking at that.
Yeah, no, totally. Like I said, I'm sure they're having a fantastic time because now their schedules are freed up. That means they've got all the time in the world to take pictures, look down. I don't mind a bit bad weather myself to the extent it leads to an extension. In any case, when I go up next year, my plan is certainly to go up further afield and longer time anyways. I want to have more space and longer duration space. Interesting enough, Michael, who's up there at the moment, he's had more than 250 days in space. So he's certainly very familiar with it. So they're in very, very good hands with Michael.
Per, when you go up there, I don't know how you do it, and I don't know what the cost implications are for us, but when you go up there, if it's possible, will you speak to us on this programme from space?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. I'll be delighted. We are actually streaming down from our spacecraft. So there will be a live stream down to some sort of website so you can follow it live. And yes, I'll be happy taking the mic and say all the best wishes from space. And maybe you can wish me a good trip before I go. You know?
Yeah, yes, we will. We'll keep fully up to date with you before you go. We'll speak to you when you're up there. That would be wonderful.
That really would be brilliant. It's lovely to see you and lovely to see a lovely blue sky behind you, Per.
Yes, thank you very much. We're blessed in London today.
Yeah, good day.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought we were going with him. That's what he said last time.
He did, to be fair.
He invited us to go with him.
Yeah. I think maybe...
Don't think that's going to happen?
I think he's probably been told they're not paying for it.
Oh, okay.
It's a shame, isn't it? It's a shame. But if we can talk to him whilst he's up there...
That would be brilliant, yeah.
And you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. We've got him sorted. So that's happening. I love it. Paper reviews have gone down a storm today.
Yeah, haven't they? I don't know why.
Can't imagine.
We did have some fun earlier on with paper reviews.
Mike says, I do apologise to Anne for being embarrassed.
I wasn't embarrassed. I just couldn't figure out what on earth was going on. David Hamilton was with us.
Very rude, very cheeky.
He was reviewing some cheeky stories.
But he said, I have to say, I have never laughed so much on a newspaper review or indeed any breakfast programme. Absolutely hilarious. Well done, you guys. It's made my week. In fact, probably made my year.
Oh, isn't that nice? Thank you for saying so. In fact, Angela says, too, she said, I felt so down this morning, but now you have both lifted my spirits. I've never laughed so much with David Hamilton and yourselves. So down to earth. Keep up the good work. It's what we needed today.
Oh, Angela, yeah, I hope that has set you off on a better footing today. Mark's in Salford. Just wanted to compliment you on your fabulous breakfast show. It's so different to anything else on TV, which is what we aim for.
It is, yeah.
It's easy to watch, no arguing, just lively debate. We're clearly enjoying ourselves, which we are, and having a laugh, and we appear to have control. No, I wish. But look, keep up the good work, he says. You know, these sort of messages really mean the world to us because we are trying to do something that the other channels aren't doing and making it warm and homely and friendly.
But you're contributing too, aren't you? Because, for instance, we were talking about funny words that you make up. Because every family has words that they make up. Sandra says, my daughter and her family have their own language. Ooh. Some of it's rhyming slang, mainly using the names of famous celebrities. For instance, Where's the Tina is short for Where's the Tina Turner, which is the remote control channel turner. Get it? Or it's on the Jill. Jill Ireland, Kitchen Island.
Oh.
When my son, oh, this is lovely. She said, when my son was very young, he worked out that the single version of a clothes hanger, because clothes sounds plural, was a clo hanger. So many years later, we often ask, have you got a clo hanger I can use?
Oh, I love that. And just very quickly, Christine says, my boyfriend Carl calls my third toe a tinger because it's quite long, and he says it's not really a toe or a finger, so it's a tinger.
Oh, I like that one too.
That's good.
Can I do one more?
Oh,
because this is brilliant. Tash says, when my son was small and got a new toy that needed to be built up, you know, like Lego or Meccano or something, he would say, where are the constructions? Meaning instructions. He's now a mechanical engineer. Yay! Love it.
Brilliant. Love all of that. Keep them coming through. Stay with us. We're going to find out what are the most off-putting flirting techniques according to scientists in Cyprus, of all places.
We should get David Hamilton back in.
We should do, yeah. If you're single and looking, don't go anywhere.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
.33 morning to you, whether you're watching us on TV, online or listening on the radio. It's good to have you with us.
Now, hundreds of families across the UK are speaking out about an epilepsy drug called sodium valproate that has caused deformities and learning difficulties in around 20,000 babies in Britain.
Now, the medicines regulator acknowledges the drug is harmful to fetuses, but the Sunday Times has reported it's still being prescribed to pregnant women.
Our North East of England reporter Rachel Sweeney has been to meet some of those affected.
Campaigners say the issuing of sodium valproate to pregnant women is a scandal that's been impacting families for almost 5 decades. It's led to babies being born with deformities, autism and learning difficulties. The epilepsy drug was first issued in 1973. It's known to be harmful to fetuses, but an investigation by the Sunday Times found it's still being prescribed to pregnant women with warnings covered up. Lisa Skeen from Rowlings Gill was given valproate in 1984. She says she was never told of the dangers to pregnant women.
You know, to all of a sudden have this 3-year-old and a newborn baby who was in special care for months on end, and then just to see in his notes valproate syndrome, and when I asked about them, they were snatched out of my hand.
Lisa's daughter Bethany has mild effects. She cares for her brother, who will never live independently.
So Dominic has a global development delay, autistic tendencies, Asperger's,
glaucoma, cataracts, arthritis, bilateral hernia, and both under and overactive thyroid.
Is that directly related to this issue?
As far as we've been made aware of, yes, it is.
Manufacturer Sanofi raised concerns in the 70s that the drug could be harmful to fetuses, but a medical committee decided the risk was low and it could still be used. The latest figures show that valproate was prescribed to 247 pregnant women between April 2018 and September 2021. Sanofi says it's not involved in dispensing medicinal products. The company says their pacts include warnings to pregnant women, and it supports the move to ensure that all patients have access to the appropriate information. In 2012, a campaign trust was launched called InFact. It was co-founded by Janet Williams, who took the drug when she was pregnant with her sons Lee and Philip. Now in their 30s, they both need 24-hour care as a result of fetal contact with valproate. Janet believes families deserve compensation.
The fact that they've known for so long, and it wasn't until our campaign started in 2013 that the MHRA obviously had to then get hold of this and try and do something with it. But 10 years on and we're still sat here waiting. And that's what makes it even worse. The fact that they've known for so long and so many children have been damaged by this. It's shameful, really.
The government ordered an independent safety review in 2018. It was chaired by Baroness Julia Cumberledge. The review was conducted by the Medicines and Healthcare Regulator. A spokesperson said, valproate must no longer be prescribed to women or girls of childbearing potential unless they are on the pregnancy prevention programme. But the Sunday Times has reported that it's still being prescribed to pregnant women in plain packaging without information leaflets or with warnings covered up. The Department for Health and Social Care said, "We've accepted the majority of the recommendations in Baroness Cumberledge's report, and there are wider forms of redress available for those who need it." Campaign groups continue to raise awareness of valproate and say after 5 decades, words are empty and it's too little, too late. Rachel Sweeney, GB News.
I never understand with stuff like that why they don't just do something. If it's not safe, don't give it out.
I don't understand. It sort of reminds you of the thalidomide scandal, doesn't it? I mean, thank God for campaigning parents like those, but also thank goodness for the campaigning journalism of the Sunday Times, because they're the same people who actually exposed the thalidomide campaign. But look how many decades it took to get any compensation about that at all. And still the agony goes on, actually. Another health concern here, Health Secretary Sajid Javid says he's going to review what immediate changes can be made to gender treatment services for children in England.
Now, it comes after the Health Secretary called out the services, saying they're bordering on ideological and must not be a one-way street.
Let's talk now to Stephanie Davies-Eyre, who is the Director of Transgender Trend and author of Communicating with Kids. And she joins us now. Very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Is Sajid Javid right to call for an inquiry? Because we need to know what's going on and get some joined-up thinking, don't we?
Yes, he's absolutely right. And we've been campaigning for this really for 7 years now, that the service needs to be investigated. There needs to be a proper investigation. We have the CAS review, which was a really, really positive step forward in an independent review into the service. And Hilary Cass produced her interim report recently, which really exposes the lack of proper paediatric care that goes on within the Tavistock Gender Identity Service for Children. So it's a real wake-up call that these children are not receiving the same level of care as any other child with psychological difficulties that attends mental health NHS services.
Clarify your position, because I think it's really important when we talk about such a delicate subject. Are you what would be described as anti-trans? Are you pro-trans? I mean, what's your position? You clearly don't think that children should be getting the treatment that they're getting, but does that mean that once they reach adulthood you would have an issue?
It's not an issue of being pro-trans or anti-trans. It's an issue of children and children receiving the best level of healthcare and the appropriate level of healthcare for what they're presenting with. I think the word transgender gets in the way of seeing these children as children and seeing clearly the difficulties that they're having, and therefore the appropriate way of approaching these issues in line with other paediatric services. But what's happened when we use the word transgender about children, immediately the child is accepted as transgender, not questioned, and it's become a political label rather than, it's not a clinical label, it doesn't really have any meaning. But if a child comes in and says, I'm transgender, then underlying issues are not explored, and the medical pathway essentially is the only pathway for these children now. There isn't any real in-depth psychological support or therapy or just investigation and exploration of those issues to help the child understand how they're feeling.
But I've talked to transgender men in the past who have said, you know, when they were sort of hitting puberty and that sort of age, I mean, the one thing which they knew that they weren't as they were expected to be, and the one thing they absolutely dreaded was their periods starting and all that, and becoming a woman that they didn't want to be.
And clearly that is not uncommon for many, many girls. And this is one reason why we need to really look at these children, as adolescents. We know that there are many girls that suffer those kind of feelings at puberty. Their bodies are changing in ways that they may find disgusting. They may hate their bodies, hate menstruation, hate the sexual attention they suddenly get. It's an incredibly difficult time. But to say that means they're boys is what's happening, and we need to look much more carefully at what's going on for girls, because over 70% of these children are girls, teenage girls, suffering very normal, unfortunately, teenage girl problems. And we have redefined those problems as meaning that those girls are really boys. And this is what we are teaching girls, that if they feel that way, that it's because they're really a boy. And that kind of simplistic political ideological approach is what has led to the huge failings at the Tavistock for these kids.
There's a report about one school in one of the papers this morning saying there is a secondary school of about 1,000 children, 60 of whom came back from the pandemic, that was the phrase used, came back from lockdown asking about this, feeling, and they were, again, mostly girls, feeling that they were in the wrong bodies. And a lot of the teachers were worried that actually this had been suggested to them by the amount of time they'd spent on the internet whilst in lockdown. And we need to address that as well. This is a whole generation of youngsters who are accessing certain informations online.
I think the lockdown has really sort of proved what the suspicion has been, that children are being indoctrinated online. They are absolutely bombarded across all social media platforms, forums, everywhere, that they might be transgender if they have normal adolescent feelings. A lot of children go through, I mean, boys as well as girls, go through difficulties at puberty. I'm sure we all remember it as a very confusing and difficult time, and some have it worse than others. And all of those children are being trained to believe that if they have those feelings, it means they were born in the wrong body, they're transgender. I think adults, parents, teachers don't realise just how much this message is being, you know, across the whole of the internet. Children are bombarded with this message, and so lockdown has shown that children have spent more time online and been seeing these messages more.
Stephanie, forgive me, Stephanie. Forgive me for jumping in because we're almost out of time, but I just want to ask you, you're not saying, are you, that children cannot have gender issues, are you? I mean, there's got to be cases. Do you accept that there are cases where actually there does need to be, even if it waits till they're 18 and officially an adult, that there just does have to be some gender realignment?
Gender dysphoria, the clinical term itself, it's an extremely rare condition, but there are all sorts of conditions of adolescence that are similar to gender dysphoria, but there's no differentiation in the clinical service, and that's what we need. We need to tease out what's happening for that child, whether it's real gender dysphoria, whether it's normal anxieties of adolescence, and that's not what's happening.
OK. Stephanie Davis-Arai, good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't know, I'm a bit torn. You've got to be very careful with children. But I've met people who've transitioned later in life and they've been absolutely suicidal and wish they could have done something at a younger age, not necessarily as children, but at a younger age.
And you've met them, which is why you feel it quite passionately.
I'm quite passionate about it because when you meet...
But have you also met people who feel it was now a mistake to change?
No.
But they are out there.
Oh, there will be people out. There will be people out there, but no, I haven't met those. But I just think people have a view. People form a view when it's something which is they think is strange or frightening, which you can understand. Yeah. But I've met people who, and it's just changed their lives. They've become who they are meant to be, and it's different when you meet them. So, I mean, I have to say, but you're quite right, you've got to protect children, but you've also got to cater for a reality.
I also understand her view that when you go through puberty, and particularly girls starting periods, it must be awful for boys as well in different ways, but girls starting their periods and the aches and pains and you actually do think, what the heck is happening to my body? And this is painful and horrible. And I remember going to school and, you'd be in a class of young girls, aged 12, 13 or something, going around spending most of the week hugging your stomach because you're in such pain. You're going and queuing outside the nurse's office, begging for painkillers and wondering what on earth is happening to your body because, frankly, it's not a very nice thing having a period. And I can understand why, at some point, some girls would feel a sense of revulsion at what's happening to their own body. I can see that too. We just ought to be talking to our children better, don't you think?
Yeah,
talking to them more.
And I think
explaining more.
But also opening up the possibility, I think, that something may need to change. But,
Oh, in many cases, yes, of course. Yeah.
Anyway, let us know what you think about that, if you like. It's just a delicate subject.
Yeah.
What isn't always delicate is when you go out somewhere and someone flirts with you. And they don't always do it very well.
No, they should do it delicately, shouldn't they?
They should do it delicately.
These experts who've been looking at the art of flirting, if you like, have come up with their top 10 or 11 list of things that put you off, or flirting that really has got it wrong. Yeah?
Yes. Let's talk to an expert, should we?
A flirting expert.
A flirting expert, Nikki Hodgson, who you'll see doing our papers very often. Morning, Nikki. Look, what are people...
How are you?
Well, we're all right, I think. But what are people most disliking when it comes to flirting?
Well, I think they're all quite obvious things, actually, but it's worth stating them anyway. So things like being over-familiar too quickly, slimy behaviour, being narcissistic, but also being unconfident. So there's a little place in the middle that you've got to reach there. And yes, definitely not giving someone exclusive interest. So making eyes at other people in the room or chatting up other people at the same time.
Eyes when actually you should be the focus of their attention.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's really basic, isn't it? If you are trying to make advances to someone, they have to feel special. They can't just feel like they're anybody in the room, anybody will do. You just happen to be the person that's receiving their intentions and maybe giving them a bit of time. You have to feel that you are being liked for your unique properties and qualities. So, I don't think this is rocket science. I don't think it's purporting to be either, but it's good to have the rundown. The other thing that made the list was poor looks. And I think that's kind of obvious. If you don't fancy somebody, you're not going to really receive their flirtation, are you? So,
well, I suppose beauty's in the eye of the beholder, Nikki.
Yeah, but I was quite encouraged by the fact that poor looks was quite low down on the list. It was much more like good manners and things like that, especially and good hygiene. Yeah, was almost top of the list before
having
looks.
a shower has surely got to be the number one thing you do before going on a date anyway, but I don't know, there's some people out there that are not doing it. And I think the other thing that was on the list actually was being stingy. And that's quite interesting, thinking about gender relationships and who should pay on a date and whether you should split the bill. I think the rule is always be generous, and if you come from a place of generosity, then you're not going to get stuck in that kind of gender quagmire around who pays.
Yes, insisting you don't have a starter or something might be a bit off if you're on no pudding.
Yeah. And you go to a restaurant where they give the man the menu with the prices on, and they give the woman the menu without the prices on, which I think a lot of people would just take exception to nowadays.
I think that's pretty bad. Have you got a top chat-up line, Nikki?
Oh my gosh, what a good question. Well, don't go for any of those, have you felt this material and boyfriend material, girlfriend material lines. They don't work. I just think, do you want to dance is a good line, because actually, when I was writing my book, what I found out was that dancing was the #1 aphrodisiac throughout all the centuries that I researched.
That's what my mum used to say all the time.
Yes.
That's how to meet somebody nice, is to dance with them.
Always, because then you get a sense of, do you actually like being near them? Are they making eye contact with you? Can they move? I just think dancing is the #1 thing you should do with somebody.
Oh, there you go. Nikki, thank you very much. I'm disheartened because I can't dance to save my life.
Me either.
There you go. I'll give it a whirl. Make a mess of it. But anyway, there you go. Let's have a look at the sport and the showbiz. Ada McGee, Stephanie Tetchy are here. Two very big flirters, actually, you two.
I can't help myself.
You can't. No, you're just a natural flirt.
I can't help myself. I'm very sorry, guys.
Oh, it's perfect. Let's kick off with a bit of showbiz then, should we? And a bit Jodie Comer.
Yes, unfortunately, she's found herself in the middle of a security scare.
Oh, no.
So she's currently in the West End, starring in a play called Prima Facie at the Harold Pinter Theatre. And unfortunately, a man was loitering outside when she was coming out to greet fans. But actually, security was warned that he was raising a bit of flags because he was trying to get under the shutters through to her dressing room. So she had to get escorted via another exit. And poor Jodie, she's had stalker threats before, so it was quite frightening, and the theatre have said that she will no longer be greeting fans.
Right, you've got to be careful.
Yeah, so it is a bit scary to get unwanted attention.
Yes, indeed. A bit worrying. In the sport...
Yeah, I mean, we've been discussing boxing all morning.
Well, we have.
Yeah.
We have. Let's talk a little bit of football.
Don't be so worried about that.
Everton. There's like a sort of Merseyside derby on today.
Yeah, this is huge. This is not just any Merseyside derby either, which is why we've got to give it a bit of coverage, because it has implications at the top and the bottom of the table. Liverpool fell behind Manchester City yesterday because Manchester City beat Watford. That's at the top end of the table, obviously. Liverpool have to win today to go to within a point of Manchester City. So they've got to do that at home against their rivals Everton, who could be relegated this season for the first time in their history. And I'm talking about 125 odd years of history there. So they could suffer a psychological blow this afternoon if Burnley win their game at 2 o'clock. I don't think Everton really want to go into that game at Anfield with knowing Burnley have won, because that will place them in the bottom three. But I can't remember a Merseyside derby being this important, probably since the 80s, actually, when they used to vie at the top of the old First Division and in cup finals, etc. So huge implications at the top of the table. But yesterday, Manchester United failed at Arsenal. They had a bad week.
Didn't Cristiano Ronaldo do quite well?
He did. He scored.
Headline.
Yeah, he scored, and he praised the skies after the tragedy of losing his child this week. So that was a nice touch. But Arsenal prevailed 3-1 in that one.
Oh, you're not happy about that?
No, it's always like those two meeting are always like an excitement for me, because there always used to be big rivals. Both of them have gone down, but I still love when they're face to face. But obviously, I hate when Man United lose. It leaves me in a foul mood.
Oh dear. I tell you what, who's come out of a foul mood? Will Smith.
Yes.
He's been quite sort of smiley with fans now that he's been spotted out.
I know, because obviously a few weeks ago it was all about Slapgate at the Oscars, and so now he's emerged in India, in Mumbai. So apparently he's on a transformational retreat, and he's meeting up with a spiritual guru called Sadhguru, and apparently he's going to be spending some time there to reflect on what's happened. So he's been meeting up with fans when he arrived at the private airport, but he's come out of hiding, which is good. So
I saw in the papers yesterday, because obviously the Red Table podcast thing that his wife does, that's come out, and she said it's deep inner healing or something.
Yeah.
But
so maybe he's gone to find his inner peace.
Yeah,
But there was talk in them saying that marriage is in real trouble.
Yeah, well, I did say that a few weeks ago. I was like, I don't know if their marriage will last because, you know, their marriage has been exposed even more for how toxic it can be. And now look at his career. He has like 2 movies now which have been put on hold. So it's not going to be plain sailing for them. But knowing Jada, she's probably going to use this to her advantage and probably get him on the red table talk soon. But let's see if the Smiths hang on in there.
We're seeing a lot of that going on at the moment, aren't we? These celebrity couples that are sort of exploiting each other on social media in some way.
They're celebrities, they love it. I think they secretly love the good, the bad and the scandalous. They just make it work.
But you can't live like that all the time, can you?
It wasn't a conventional relationship either, though.
No,
or is it?
no. Well, they've always had an open marriage, but again, it's like when you've got the whole world knowing about it. Was so funny.
Stephen's nose went all squidgy.
No, I'm sorry. People can do it like, but I mean, don't get married. If you want to play free and easy, then don't get married.
Yeah, well, I think that's fair enough. Absolutely.
I agree too.
I was just thinking, you said slapgate. Yeah. We've been talking words all morning. And anything that makes interest or headlines, you sling gate on the end of it.
I know. Yes, you do. It's been on for years, isn't it?
Slapgate, squidgygate, everything gate.
From Watergate, right?
It did, yes.
Scandal.
Something that starts small and then blows up. Camillagate, Squidgygate.
Yes.
There's been all sorts of gates.
Partygate.
I'm feeling a bit fousticated. That was my mother's word.
Fousticated.
Fousticated is when it's all a bit much and you're feeling a bit hot and overcome.
I love that. Thankfully, because Annie's fousticated, we can have a few days off now. Me and thee.
Yay!
Breakfast will be back tomorrow morning, of course, but don't forget we've got the political correction coming up for you in just a moment. Thanks, you two.
No worries.
Good to see you.
Happy Sunday.
Start off your GB News Sunday with Stephen and Anne at breakfast from 6 a.m. At 10, join the political correction. From 12 till 6, it's Alistair, Darren, Inaya and Nana. At 7, join Free Speech Nation for a laugh that won't be cancelled. At 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight, followed by Headliners. That's Sunday on GB News.
Looking ahead to today's weather then, and the UK is looking largely dry for many, with the warmest weather across western parts of the country. Taking a look at the details of where you live.
And the southwest, for many, it's going to be dry and sunny this afternoon. The west of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, a bit cloudy with a risk of rain.
Further east, and we may see the odd shower, but for many it'll be dry, feeling cooler along the coast thanks to the breeze.
Across into Wales then, we'll see plenty of sunshine throughout the day. The warmest weather will be in the west, with highs reaching the high teens.
The Midlands, however, could see a few showers develop during Sunday, especially towards the east. The showers, though, will be mainly light and fleeting, allowing the sunshine to quickly return.
Let's head north, and for many in northern England, it's going to be dry and sunny. However, low cloud may linger across some eastern coasts. Where it does so, it is going to be a little bit chilly.
Low cloud may also affect parts of northeastern Scotland today, but elsewhere should see a dry day with sunny spells. In the sunshine, temperatures may climb to about 16 if you're lucky.
The sunshine is also going to be plentiful across Northern Ireland. Very little cloud around. The northeasterly wind, however, will keep some coastal areas a little bit on the cool side.
So there you are, a few showers continuing this afternoon before easing this evening, leaving many parts dry with clear spells. And that is your weather for today.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect